Hello, Arbitrarians. Welcome back to the Arbitrarium. This episode is about AI art. So, there's been a lot of talk lately about robots and their capacity to create art. Can a computer truly create art? How does it do this? How important is conscious crafting of art? Is this a threat to the many fields of art? Here with me to decipher this contentious debate is the first human ever algorithmically modulated from disparate parts of other humans without their consent, Garrett Harriman.
Hi.
So, Garrett, what AI art is you got a computer algorithm that's you plug keywords into, and when you plug those keywords in, it reaches out across the internet, pulls art that was made, well, still probably now primarily by actual artists, and it's taking that without those artists' consent, and it's cramming those things together and spitting out
an original image.
We got to put that in quotes because that's one of the things we're going to be talking about. In theory, an original image. And that's what you get.
Yeah.
So the question is, well, the joke in that intro there was that, you're the first human who is algorithmically modulated from disparate parts of other humans without their consent. So are you an actual human?
Yes.
How?
My grandparents didn't exactly consent to me being created, or my great-grandparents, or my great-great-grandparents. However, I carry, bits and pieces of each of them in my genetic code, my algorithm, if you will. DNA simply stores genetic information on how to build a human. So I am, in a very real sense, an amalgamation of several thousand generations of humans. Are you going to call me not a human because I wasn't made directly by them?
Okay, at the very least, we've established that this might not be the best analogy, right? Yeah, okay. It may not be the best analogy for the situation of AI art.
Well, you brought it up.
I did. I'm acknowledging that. So,
for the record, we've been going back and forth on this on Facebook for a few weeks now.
Well, we went back and forth on it once, about a week ago.
Well, there was an earlier one. Yes.
Okay. I'm not saying there wasn't. I've just forgotten it. So that's what AI art is. So we had a few questions that we knew we wanted to ask. So let's see. What would be the good first one? Take care of the producer. First, I guess maybe we'll try to tackle the most obvious question, which is probably going to be the most difficult question, and I'm sure we'll come back to it. Because the question we're really trying to answer here, I think for the most part, is AI art?
Yes.
Okay, what's your argument there?
So, first, we're going to start with the dictionary definition from Oxford here. Quote, noun, the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form such as painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. 2, the various branches of creative activities such as painting, music, literature, and dance.
Okay.
So, the first thing I would like to put out there is that this is the AI art is an human endeavor. Because that AI did not spontaneously generate. No, someone made that.
Yeah.
So the crux of my argument of this first part is that, as I put it in the first Facebook post that you don't remember, is I
may remember once you bring it up.
Just because the brush is not the art is still art. This is
Say that again and slow it down because I'm not sure the recording picked that up well.
The brush is not the artist, but the art is still art.
Okay.
Someone may, as we've talked about prior, I believe in the social media episode. What was it? The Social Dilemma. We did an episode on that. Someone brought up that an algorithm is simply an opinion put into code.
Okay.
So someone wrote this AI bot with their opinions on how art should be interpreted, and then let the brush run wild.
Well, now hang on. How art should be interpreted?
Yeah.
How do you mean?
So
is this AI art interpreting art?
Yes, it is interpreting art, creating an original image, using someone else's idea of what makes art valid. The AI in this analogy is the brush.
See, I feel like you might be giving that algorithm a little bit too much credit. Because it's
not just one algorithm, it's a lot of algorithms.
Right.
But
well, what it's doing is it's just taking a keyword that you've given it, and it's scouring the internet for images that have those same keywords. It's not actually seeing that image has that quality to it. And as a defense for my argument there, you could, and I didn't think about this before, but this might cause AI some serious problems, and if you want to really jam the system, this is a good way to do it. Start giving your art really stupid, irrelevant keywords.
Mm-hmm.
But because that's what it's doing, is it's looking at the keyword. It's not actually looking at the art. It can't see it and interpret it the way that somebody understands the craft of art could do that. It's just looking at the keywords. It's looking at the words that somebody else has attached to that image. And then it's drawing from that image, and then it's applying it to whatever the new image is going to be. So it's not interpreting art. It's reading.
No, someone else is telling it how to interpret it.
Right, but that someone is telling it how to interpret words, not really art. That middleman is very important because
it can't just be words. It's looking at the image.
No.
No, it is. It has to. Otherwise, it has nothing to actually compile.
The only way...
If it's not looking at the image in some way, then it can't draw anything out of the image to put into its new image.
Looking at the image, it's looking at the metadata of the image. And mostly, as far as I'm to understand, it's looking at the keywords that are attached to that image.
No, the keywords are how it finds the image. What you're describing is how to use it, not exactly what it does.
Maybe a better word than that would be tags. It's looking at, generally speaking, the tags and the words that are associated with that image. It is not looking at the image and understanding everything that's in that image like a human could and pulling those things out. It's not doing that. It is not critically evaluating that art.
Okay, if you type in ship, does it or does it not create an image of a ship?
Yes, but not because let me finish.
Okay.
Not because the AI can actually physically see that image and interpret it. Because if that image of a ship, let's say it wasn't an image of a ship, you could have that same exact image, a literal picture of a ship, and if all the metadata says that it's a cow, the computer is going to think that it's a cow. It can't look at it and say, that's not a ship, that's a cow.
Okay, so it's finding a keyword or a tag, as you want to put it, that someone put a tag on it that said, this is a ship, right?
Yes.
And then it's doing this to everything that it can get its little mitts on that has the tag ship. Mm-hmm. So then it extrapolates, okay, these are the parts of a ship.
Wait, the parts of a ship? That's a different question.
If you type in the keyword ship and it gives you a cow,
yeah,
then it's not giving you a new image of a ship, right?
No, even though that's what you specifically asked it to do.
So does it not give, if you type in ship, does it not give you an image of a ship?
If you type into like a Google search, or if you type into a keyword into the algorithm?
Into the little AI art bot.
Okay.
If you type in ship, does it or does it not give you an image of a ship back?
Right now, it should. It should. But
the only reason... Have you played around with these?
A little bit on my own, yeah.
Okay. What keywords did you put in?
Now, this was... Okay, I don't remember the keywords that I used, but here's what I'm saying. Right now, if you typed in ship as one of your keywords into AI art, an AI art generator, it probably will bring you back the results that you're basically kind of looking for. But it's not doing that because it can actually interpret the art. That's not what it's doing. It's just reading the metadata of what people have written, whoever posted that art, wherever they posted it. So if you had people, if artists decided to jam this whole AI art thing, it wouldn't be that difficult. You just got to give your images random tags that aren't actually related to what it is that your artwork represents. That's all you'd have to do, because an AI art generator can't physically look at the image and know that you're lying. It can't do that because it's not smart enough. It's not smart. It's not intelligent, despite the...
No, yeah, I'm not making the argument that this thing is sapient.
Right.
Or sentient. It's just following programming. That's all it's doing.
Yeah. So that's my argument there. I mean, it's not actually making art. It's generating something that approximates art, a fabricated piece of art, I guess, based on metadata. It's not doing what artists do.
No, it can't do that with metadata alone. Metadata, all metadata is information about what the data you're actually looking at is.
Yeah.
It's things like, when was it created?
That's part of
it. Things like, when was it created? When was it transferred? When was it modified? There's nothing about what's actually in it, in the metadata, unless you put a tag on it.
My experience has been that when I look at the metadata for something like an image, it has all of that, but it also has, whatever keywords or tags that were used.
Yeah, it's got the tags in it.
It's the entire programming for that.
But if you had no idea, if I tell you to draw a sprocket, have you ever seen one? A sprocket?
Isn't that what George Jetson made?
Yeah. There's a reason that they use that in economics class.
It's just a random object.
Yeah, it doesn't actually exist.
A variable product, yeah.
So you can't really draw one, right?
No.
You have no frame of reference.
No.
You've never seen one.
No.
So, going back to the AI, if you tell it to make something, or you want an image of something that actually exists.
Okay.
You can't look at metadata, because metadata doesn't contain that information. If it just says ship in the metadata, and I keep going back to ship just because that's the first image that pops in my mind. It's the sprocket for this conversation. If it just says ship, it doesn't tell the bot what a ship looks like at all.
No, the AI bot won't know what a ship looks like.
But it returns an image of a ship.
Yeah, because...
How does it do that?
Well, because the person who put that data into it is telling the AI that it's a ship.
Yeah, but if it's just looking at the metadata, there's no information about what a ship is. There's no information on how to render a ship in the metadata. That information doesn't exist in the metadata.
I think you're making my argument for me, and maybe you're not realizing it.
No, it has to look at the image.
It
has to break it down.
Look at the image. It can't... Okay, maybe we'll do this. How does it look at the image?
It looks at it through ones and... It looks at the binary code. It renders, okay, this is what the file looks like from a computer brain. So...
Where does that information end up?
And then it compiles all the corresponding ones and zeros across as many samples as it has, and it looks at, okay, what are the common elements in this particular tag?
Yeah, where does it get that information?
From the ones and zeros inside the image.
And well, the ones and zeros are the base language, but that base language it builds up to other languages, other programming languages. Where is that information stored in an image?
It's stored in the file itself. The metadata is not that is
when it's posted on the internet.
The metadata is the information about the file. It is not the file itself.
Right.
So you have to go into the file itself to know what's actually in there. To be able to extrapolate an image from that, you can't just look at the metadata. You have to look at the file itself. So it is looking at it.
You only need the file itself to move that file from one place to another. The metadata is what has the tags and keyword information.
Yeah, it has. I know it has the keywords.
Well, that's what the AI is.
That's how it finds it.
Yeah. That's how it understands whether or not it is what it's looking for.
Yeah, that's how it knows what it's looking for, but it still looks into the file to see what it is.
No.
It has to. Otherwise, it can't draw you a ship. It'll just draw you a random sequence. It would look like static.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Okay. I understand what you mean. Because it needs to be able to... It needs to be able to take... I don't know the sophistication of this, but in some way it needs to be able to take that image as an image and blend it with other images.
Exactly.
But it's looking... Essentially what's doing in a situation like that is that it's interpreting the numbers, probably the hex codes and things like that, and the general shape of it, I guess. But really, it's not even really interpreting the shape of it. Not really. It's probably looking at pixels and things like that, and kind of the same way that Photoshop works when you, and I don't know this for a fact, so this is speculation, the way that Photoshop works when you use something like the spot heal tool or whatever. It's just saying, okay, well, these are the colors based on hex codes. It can't actually see the color.
Right.
That exists in this space, and you want to replace it so that it looks more like the space that's around it. So it just sort of guesses, really, as to what kind of is supposed to go in that space. Okay.
So it has to look into the image. I'm using look into as a shorthand. Do I think that it sees the color? Does it see the ocean? No. I'm not saying that.
It only needs to look into the image in that it is an image, not an image of a ship.
It knows it's an image of a ship because the metadata says so.
It assumes that the image is of a ship. We talked about that earlier when I said you could give it any tags you want to, and that computer's not going to know the difference.
Right, but that's the only way that it knows.
Right.
And computers don't operate off of maybe.
It cannot critically evaluate what it is that it's dealing with.
Right.
Yeah.
But someone told it this is what is relevant this is what you're looking for when it's relevant to the keyword.
Well, it's saying this is what you should find if you're using this keyword to
No, it's not telling you what it should find.
Yes, that is what an AI art generator does.
No. That is what the programmer told it. This is what you'll find. This is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
There is no should.
Oh no, there is a should, even if the programmer doesn't believe that there is. Again, because you can put any tag you want to on your image, and that AI art generator isn't actually able to see the image, so it doesn't know if that tag is true or not. And neither does the programmer, because the programmer doesn't know what the AI art generator is actually going to go and look for. All the programmer can do is say, here are the keywords and this should get you what you're looking for, but I have no way of guaranteeing that. If enough artists lie about the tags, the keywords, and things that are in their images, fuck all. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, I mean, is discussion on how to sabotage it really telling us, is it art?
I think it is.
Okay.
Because it gets into the issue of understanding craft. Now, there is something to outsider art. But when we're talking about outsider art, the reason that outsider art can be successful is because art is based on human psychology. It's a medium of communication, right? So outsider art can function properly because it can end up being good. It's not often good, but it can be very, very good because the things that artists, the actual training artists, are doing is interpreting human psychology in one way or another and then presenting it through the medium of some kind of art. And people who aren't trained on that are still working off the same hardware, and software too. So they can, for lack of better words, incidentally come across those same things and be able to interpret them without any formal training because they're human. They can see a color and they can see another color and they can put those things together and say, these look good together, right? And so that's how outsider art can be good. When you get into the principles of design, that's where outsider art is rarely any good. But sometimes people just have an intuition for it. But AI arts can't do that. It can't, at least not at the same pitch as a human can, because it doesn't have human psychology. It can't do that. It can't understand craft. It doesn't have a connection to human psychology that would allow it to do that.
Does its programmer?
You don't know. Probably not, but maybe.
So the programmer has no human psychology. Did another bot make the bot?
I'm sorry. I thought you meant is the programmer a trained artist?
No, I'm not saying is the programmer trained. It wouldn't surprise me if some of these programmers are.
Yeah, it wouldn't. Well,
I mean, you can pick up 2 different skills in a lifetime.
Yeah, it's funny to me to imagine a trained artist becoming a programmer to help AI art, but it's stupid to say that those people don't exist. But yeah, no. So that's how I got.
I know a
from
trained
that
programmer who's a pretty good calligrapher.
Yeah.
And I'd argue calligraphy is a form of art.
Oh, absolutely.
So, pretty good programmer, artist. They do exist.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as creating a program that, at least in theory, might threaten the field of art as humans create it.
At a bare minimum, I would argue that the art generated by an AI, as we've described that it functions, is art in the form that it shows us a mirror of what the gestalt of whatever keyword is you're typing in.
Well, to be fair, I did not come into this conversation thinking that that AI art was not art necessarily. I could see a pretty decent argument being made for that. That's not the same thing as all the other questions that we got to deal with when we're talking about whether or not AI art is maybe, I don't know, legitimate art. Maybe that's one way to think about it.
That is such a hairy term, right?
I don't like the word.
It's the legitimate.
Yeah.
We had a 2-part episode on what makes art legitimate, and we barely came up with an answer.
Yeah.
So, if it communicates anything, it communicates what everyone else thinks these keywords are. It gives you a blended image of what what that is. You type in ship, it'll give you an image of what it learned everyone else thinks a ship is.
Hairy words. It doesn't really do that necessarily.
I mean, if it's drawing from every other tag that it can find of a ship,
yeah,
and compositing that image in a way, then every image that it drew from has some influence on what it compiles.
Mm-hmm.
So that in and of itself has some sort of communication on this is what my programmer thinks everyone else thinks a ship is.
See, but you're talking as if the AI is actually thinking.
This is shorthand, man. I don't want to go through an entire paragraph of what it actually does just to get to say what it ends up doing.
Well, the reason I'm getting into that is my question is how important, because this is one of the questions on our list, how important is the actual craft? How important is craft? Understanding what it is that you're doing. Does that legitimize the art?
I don't necessarily think it does. I mean,
so the jizz box then is legitimate art.
Yes,
all that stuff we complained about.
That wasn't so much a complaint as a what the fuck is why. I can't say that
it doesn't matter.
Just because I don't understand why they're doing it doesn't mean it's not art.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
well, the reason I'm saying that is
communication is a two-way street.
The reason I'm bringing this up is that by that definition, there is nothing that isn't art.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
Is it? Why is that a problem?
Well, if there isn't anything that isn't art, then there isn't art. The word doesn't matter. It has no meaning.
I mean, something that provokes an emotion, I guess, that could be considered art. That is, by definition, something primarily appreciated for its aesthetic value.
By how many people?
Does it matter?
That's my question.
So
at least one, I would assume.
Yeah, at least the guy who's jerking off into the box. We keep coming back to jizz box when it comes to art.
It had an impact on us. Which, unfortunately, maybe legitimizes it as a piece of art.
Yeah. If it's primarily for some sort of emotional impact, I think, yep, jizz box is art.
Intent. That was something that was in that phrase that you just used. If it's primarily intended, or you didn't say intended, what do you say? Primarily used to elicit something, right?
The definition, okay, typically in a visual form such as painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated for their beauty or emotional power.
Cool, so it has to
be
have
appreciated.
Intent. To be appreciated. So that's definition one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can an AI or AI art generator do anything for an intended purpose?
As I said before, the AI itself is just the tool.
Okay.
The program. This is the tool of the programmer who made the thing.
Oh, great! So we pay the programmer then.
Do we pay the programmer
for creating art?
Do they want to be paid?
Well, I'm sure they do. Do we pay them as the artist though? Is that what they're credited for? Because they're the ones that get to dictate the intent.
Sure. I mean,
Boy, they get all the credit, man. They don't even have to actually make anything.
I mean, programming is not an easy thing.
I mean, they're not making the art. They're programming the tool that then attempts to. It's not, I can't even say attempts.
I don't make an envelope then. At work.
No, you don't.
No, and I don't set up the machine to do what I want.
Well, you don't get paid to make envelopes.
I get paid to run the machine.
Yeah. You get paid to maintain the machine. You are not the envelope.
No, I don't get paid to maintain it. I get paid to adjust it.
Okay. Well. Yeah, you're not making the envelopes.
Okay.
You are not an envelope smith.
So we pay the person who uses the brush, right?
My question is, who's the artist?
Yeah, I'd say that.
Where is the artist in that equation?
I'd say that it's the programmer.
But they didn't actually know what was going to be.
Do they need to know?
In order to be an artist?
I mean, who was the guy who just splashed paint?
It's about Jackson Pollock?
Yeah. Did he know exactly how those things were going to end up? Or?
Yes.
He knew exactly.
He had a close enough idea of balance and things like that. And it pains me to defend Jackson Pollock to this degree, but he knew he had a formal training in art.
Yeah, just
he
knew
you
what he was doing doesn't mean that you used it.
He did. He did use it. You can tell when you look at them that at minimum, and I have defended him on this, at minimum this is an understanding of balance. Tonal balance in particular. Mm-hmm. Those splatters were not random. They weren't. You can't attain a balance like that with randomness.
Just because he can direct it the way I can a shotgun doesn't mean I'm not sued if a bolt or if a pellet goes astray. I can't predict exactly where those pellets are going to go.
I'm not real
can
sure.
I? Did he predict where each little speck of paint was going to go? He knew exactly where they were going to end up on the page?
Well, no, but with enough accuracy that...
Well, hold on. No. Okay. Accuracy, sure. Yeah, you can direct your pattern.
Yeah.
But you don't know where the pattern's really going to end up each time.
Well, fuck, by that measure, when Rembrandt painted, he didn't know where every fucking atom of the paint was going to end up.
Yeah, you can keep going down, but...
That's a nitpicky, stupid argument, I think. And I think you know that. You're muddying the water.
That's what this whole thing does. It muddies the water.
Well, if there's mud there, then we can identify the mud.
If the AI program didn't muddy the water, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
If there's mud there, we can identify the mud, but don't put the mud there. And I feel like that's what you're doing when you're trying to break it down to that degree. Like, did Jackson Pollock know exactly where each atom of paint was going to go? Well, fuck no. That's not. You don't need to know that to be an artist. You have a close enough approximation of what you're doing that you can make art with an understanding of the craft. So I'm not really entirely sure what your point was in making that argument, but it seems nitpicky.
Well, the programmer has an idea of what's going to pop out. It's going to be an amalgamation of all the different things that the thing draws from.
It could be anything, though.
If he types in ship, he's reasonably sure it's going to come out with a ship.
So he's the omni artist. He created all art.
No.
Yes, because that's what he does.
He's drawing from all the art. There's a difference.
No, because he's not.
Just as my genetic code draws from everyone else's that came before me.
By what you just said, the only art that he actually created, I say this loosely, created was whatever he personally plugged into that AI art generator. He's not responsible then for what anybody else plugs into that thing. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about him as a programmer.
No, he built the system.
Yeah, but does he get credit for every piece of art that anybody pulls out of that generator? Because that's what your argument means.
Does he get credit? Kinda. Yeah.
I'm not saying being paid to create the program. I mean literally getting credit for every single piece of artwork that comes out of that thing. As the artist of that piece of artwork. Because that's what your argument means.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That the programmer...
Just the way that I get credit for every envelope that comes out of my machine.
Do you get paid for every envelope that comes out of the machine as the person that created that envelope?
Yeah. I mean, I get paid an hourly wage, but I get credit for those things, the envelopes that come out of the machine, be they good or bad. Bad envelope comes out, I get punished. If lots of good envelopes come out, I get praised.
Okay.
The engineer who built the machine, I mean, I think that guy's long dead. But
Why shouldn't he get any credit?
no, he does. He got paid for the machine.
Was he the person who made the envelopes, or are you the person that makes the envelopes? Who makes the envelopes? Who's the artist? Who's the envelope artist?
I am.
How?
Because the machine is my tool.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
You tell it what to do?
Yes, I do tell it what to do.
But did you program it to do that?
I did program it to do that.
But you didn't build the machine.
No, but I keep it running.
But you didn't build it.
I didn't build the machine.
No. I'll ask you this. You got an artist,
Mm-hmm.
and you got an artist's assistant. And the artist is the person that paints.
Okay.
The assistant just goes in and cleans the brushes.
Mm-hmm.
Did the assistant create any of that art?
He had a hand in it.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
How?
He kept the brushes clean.
How is that creating the art?
If he didn't, then the paint would get smeared up. It'd get mixed in. There's a reason you have to clean the brushes, right?
Yeah.
So he let the artist, or he enabled the artist to do what the artist actually does. He had a hand in it.
Is the guy that cleans the ice a hockey player?
No.
He maintains the tools.
He has a hand in the game, though.
Okay. But he's not a hockey player.
No, he's not a hockey player.
So how is the artist's assistant an artist?
I didn't say he was an artist. I said he had a hand in it.
And then I asked you, so he helped create the art, and you said yes.
Yes, he did help create the art.
Well then, if you're helping create the art, you are creating the art, at least to some degree. So did he create the art?
In a small way, yes.
Okay, then is the person who maintains the ice, at least to some degree, a hockey player?
No.
Okay, so what's the difference between those two situations?
What's the difference between the two?
There has to be a difference in order for my argument to not make sense. So I'm actually asking you if you can falsify that.
Did I kill Bin Laden?
Not to my knowledge. Although you may not be able to tell me if you did. So not to my knowledge.
We're talking. It's degrees of involvement is what you're talking about here, and then you're drawing a hard line at an arbitrary point.
No.
No, it's pretty arbitrary.
Who's the artist? That's my question.
If the artist scores a hockey goal, is he a hockey player?
You're gonna have to explain the reason for that question. I'm not.
My reason.
Connecting the dots there.
We're getting into arbitrary differences where it's phasing degrees from one thing to another.
No, we're talking about
you're trying to establish a hard line.
Well, yeah, because you got the person. What I'm trying to establish is you got the person who created the art.
Mm-hmm.
You got the tools that the artist uses,
Mm-hmm.
and then apparently you've got this person who maintains the tools. Those are the roles that we had set out when we started this part of the conversation. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, are these other elements other than the artist? Are they the artist? And the reason I'm asking that is because we've got the programmer who programmed the art generator, the AI art generator.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got the generator itself, and then you got the people who are plugging the keywords into that generator to have it spit out
Mm-hmm.
some form of art, right? So which one of those is the artist?
No, you're missing one more. The people who made the original image that it draws from.
Oh no, I didn't forget them on purpose.
Well, why didn't you put them out there?
Well, because they didn't have any consent. They didn't allow their art to be used that way.
Why did they put it out on the internet where it could be viewed by anybody and anything?
Because they had no idea. Many of them had no idea that art. I mean, they couldn't see that coming around the bend necessarily. None of those artists could have said, you know what? At some point, my art's probably just going to be used by an AI art bot, so I'll just not post it anywhere.
I'm not saying
I won't make any money off of my art. I won't advertise it to anybody on the off chance that some AI art generator is going to steal it and use it to generate some other type.
Do they really steal it, though?
That's another one of the questions that we're dealing with, but we haven't finished what we've talked about before. We need to establish who the artist is.
Everything's just kind of blending into it.
No, we're still dealing with the same question. Who is the artist?
No, the original question is it art?
Yeah, we already passed that part.
What answer did we come up to?
Yes, but is it legitimate art?
Okay.
For lack of better words, legitimate art.
Is legitimate art. Well, now we're trying
Maybe
to
we'll
answer
come
who
up with
is
a
the
better
artist.
Yeah, we're trying to answer who is the artist because we need to figure out, all right, well, if for something to be art, then an artist had to create it. So who or what is the artist? That's where we're at right now. And the question I have is, in a situation with an AI art generator, man, that's hard. You've got the person who programmed it, you've got the generator itself, and you've got the people who are plugging the keywords into it.
The people who are utilizing it to generate their own images for themselves.
Yes.
And then the sources that it comes from. Because this whole system breaks down if it doesn't have anything to draw from.
Exactly. So one of the...
So what you're saying is...
There has to be an actual artist.
You cannot have an original image. The art has to come from within the system before any other influences. It can't have any influences whatsoever.
Hang on, because, we're at 36 minutes. This is a good break time because that's going to push us into another one of our really big questions. And we'll dive into that when we come back. Hello, Arbitriers. This is Dave from the Arbitrarium, and I'm here to shamelessly self-promote one of my personal projects. As some of you may know, I'm an illustrator and professor of 2D animation, and I wanted to take this time to plug a major project of mine, Mallory Bash. Mallory Bash is a cartoon series concept that follows an expeditious young girl on a quest to uncover the truth about her lost parents. But when her investigation takes her into a valley deep into the mountain forest, she's taken by a tangle of living roots and discovers a world inside the mind of the shrouded dreaming tree. Here's a bit more on the story. A 100 children are missing. One vengeful child cloaked in a tattered teddy bear suit has gathered a cult of runaways deep in the forest to build a camp around a pit of roiling tree roots, a portal to the mystic forest dreamscape called the Dark Garden. The leader of the milk carton kids, Animus, seeks a hand mirror that manifests great power within the Dark Garden, a power capable of trapping the adults within the dreamscape forever. Mallory has been kept under her grandfather's protective eye her entire life, homeschooled and living with him as her only family. Regaled for years by stories of her missing father's globe-trotting adventures, Mallory embarks on a quest to live up to his legend by saving the milk carton kids. But when she discovers her father's gnarled, tree-like spirit roaming the mirror world of the Dark Garden, she'll do anything to get him out, so she makes a deal with Animus to retrieve the hand mirror in exchange for his freedom. Her journey takes her from the depths of Brookwood Forest to the top of Satellite City's Moonreach Tower, from the desert ruins of the long-forgotten Detestable Festival to the lost settlement of Moonblush Village, and from the Hermit's Hideaway at the peak of Mount Skyladder back to the heart of the forest to face off against Animus and the Dark Garden. Along the way, the mystery she unravels is much greater than she could have imagined, and everything she thought she knew crumbles in the wake of her warpath to uncover the truth about her father, a truth that's been hidden in her family's notorious past. Mallory's a firecracker. She's got the hero's heart, which is a blessing of courage and a curse of stubbornness. She wants to live up to the legend she's built of her father, but when that legend is challenged, she sets out on an inquisition to uncover the truth. Together with her new Cloud Academy friends, the shy aristocratic Isaac and the misanthropic warrior philosopher Saki, the trio scour the quaint nooks and autumnal reaches of their home county and uncover a wild world inside the dreams of the living forest. If you're interested in checking out Mallory Bash, you can read the webcomic on webtoon.com or tapastic.com, or you can visit mallorybash.com for all the details. Thanks, and now back to the show. And we're back. Okay, so when we left off, the question that we were dealing with was, who is the artist in this situation? Because you've got the programmer who programmed the AI art generator. You've got the generator itself. You've got the person who's plugging the keywords into the generator so that it generates some piece of art. And then you've got, somehow attached to that are the nameless artists from all over the world who have created art and posted it online, and that is the pool from which the generator is drawing. So the question that we were dealing with is, who is the artist? And I think maybe a better question is who gets credit for it. So we want to sort of attach this to one of the questions that we were talking about in the chat that we knew we wanted to bring up, which is the process that the generator is going through, is it the same or is it different than a human artist being inspired or using references? So when an actual artist learns how to do art, a lot of times it just comes from all the influences that they have. You know, it comes from maybe, like, I teach animation, so maybe if you're going to create a character or you build up a style, it's from looking at other people's art. And the artists that you like, the styles that you like, you tend to pick those things up, and then at a certain point, they kind of get meshed together, and then you build up a more sophisticated understanding of design in general, and you can really build your own style from there. So the question, I guess, is that the same as an AI art generator going out and drawing from all these artists, and then all these artists' pieces of art, and then compiling those together to create some new piece of art? Would you say that that's the same, or do you, or not?
It really comes down to, do you believe that the ends justify the means?
Go on.
And the reason I say that is, if all you're interested in is the end product, then there is no difference. If you're interested in the process and what goes into it, then there's a massive difference.
Yeah.
So it comes down to, what do you personally think is more important? I think this is a very subjective question.
Okay. AI art, and maybe this gets to the crux of it. This was kind of the argument that I had when we were talking about this on Facebook that sort of inspired this entire episode. Mm-hmm. In order for art to be, for lack of better words, legitimate, does it need to impart some kind of meaning? Can we draw that conclusion from the definition that we're working with from Oxford? Yeah, look at that definition again. I would. My argument is that yes, it does, because if it doesn't have any meaning to it, if there's no intent for it, then you can't get that definition.
So, the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form such as painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. Says nothing about meaning.
Well, hang on, let's break this down.
It says nothing about intentional communication.
It does. The expression or application of human creative skill, so that's one issue that we're already running into with this particular definition.
Which is why we went through the, who is the artist? That's where we're going.
Human creative skill and imagination. Well, as we have done in the past in this podcast, definitions, we start with those, and sometimes we can delegitimize or falsify those definitions with reason. So, there's that. Mm-hmm. The expression or application of human creative skill and imagination. Imagination, that's important. Can an AI have imagination? At least what this AI is doing.
It's not a true AI, so no.
Okay.
It itself has no imagination.
Typically in a visual form such as painting or sculpture, we're throwing that part of that definition out, for obvious, I would like to think obvious reasons.
Explain for music. Those who don't quite get it.
Music is art, but it's not visual. But again, it says typically, it doesn't say always. Mm-hmm. Okay, so producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. How do you have beauty or emotional power without meaning?
Well, that comes from the observer, the consumer of the art. That's who brings that to them.
So when Rembrandt painted, he didn't impart any meaning into that work?
He brought his own emotional meaning to it, but you're not going to feel what Rembrandt felt making it, are you?
Well, maybe. I mean, that's kind of the hope. That's why it's communication.
He's hoping, sure.
Yeah.
But someone who just, for whatever reason, despises Rembrandt,
sure,
could look at what Rembrandt did and just, fucking asshole, I hate this guy. That's his own personal, emotional meaning to it. So that communication of meaning, it is a two-way street, and it's imperfect. That's part of the reason why art is art and not just I'm trying to think of a better way to put this, but it's the difference between reading, say, Dostoevsky and a assembly manual for IKEA furniture. Mm. You're communicating, sure, but you're trying to communicate very different things.
Yeah. I'm smiling because what I want to point out to you is that you are making an unbelievably postmodern argument for your side of what qualifies as art.
Yes.
I mean, it is super postmodern, like almost like dead on definition.
I don't despise postmodernism.
Yeah. It's just fun to
Okay.
acknowledge that.
I despise political activists who are
Right.
basing everything off postmodernism.
Yeah.
There's a big divide between the classical postmodernists and postmodernist activists.
Right. However, there has to be meaning in it. Period.
Yeah, there's meaning involved, but
There has to be. Well, what I'm saying is there's the meaning that the artist puts into it, and then there is the meaning that the observer pulls out of it. Mm-hmm. But in general, period, there has to be meaning there, or neither of those parties can do anything. It's a requirement for art. Meaning is a requirement for art because it is a medium of communication.
now, how complex does that meaning have to be?
I would say that the most important part of that equation, and maybe there's an argument against this, but my gut reaction is intent. And I'm not saying the specific intent, I'm saying the general intent. There has to be an intent for meaning. I'm not saying what that meaning is. I'm not saying that has to be the same from the artist to the observer. I'm just saying that there has to be intent to put meaning into it.
Now, does it have to be intent for meaning, or does it have to be intent to communicate?
It's the same question.
Meaning and communication are not the same thing.
Yes, they are. You can't communicate anything if the thing you're trying to communicate has no meaning. Communication is meaning. It literally is meaning.
You're going to have to really... Yeah, you're going to have to monologue on that one, buddy.
Okay,
I mean...
let me try, because to me that seems so unbelievably self-evident that it's hard to even break it down any further than that.
And this is where we got to...
Okay.
Because that makes... I can kind of, if I squint, see what you're trying to say there.
Well, let me ask you...
But that is not nearly as self-evident as you think it is.
Let me ask you a question.
As you seem to think it is.
Right. How can you communicate something without meaning? Without meaning being involved at all? Tell me that. Explain that to me.
No, I'm...
Well, this is me trying to ask a legitimate question to see where I'm wrong.
I understand. Just definitionally, they're different. You can't substitute communication with meaning. It's you can't just swap those words.
But seeing we're just making statements here. We're not actually breaking it down. I'm saying that it is this, and you're saying you can't that. We need to break this down more than that. So my question is, can you give me an example of communication where there is no meaning? Where something is being communicated, but there's no meaning? Can you give me an example of that?
I'm trying to think.
I'm not saying it can't, but I cannot, for the life of me, think of a situation where that is the case. Because there has to be something that put it out there, and there has to be something interpreting it for there to be communication, and for those two things to be there, there has to be
I'm trying
meaning.
to go back to the IKEA assembly manual. Mm-hmm. You're communicating a process of assembly.
Yeah.
And
somebody wrote it with intent, so there's meaning there. And
well, intent and meaning aren't the same words, aren't the same concepts either.
No.
So,
but if you have intent in your communication, then the intent is meaning.
So intent plus communication equals meaning?
Oh God, you're word mathing me here. And math is bad. Math is bad for me.
I'm not trying to fuck you up. I'm honestly trying to understand what you're saying.
Okay, hang on. See if we can do this. We'll use the IKEA. Let's do something concrete. We'll use the IKEA manual.
Insert tab A into slot A.
Right. Somebody wrote the manual with the intent to communicate how to do something.
Yes.
The intent to communicate how to do something there's meaning in that. That is the meaning. It's the meaning of what you're writing is the definition of those words and how they're put together, and the result of that. That is the meaning
of the work itself.
Of the manual, yes.
Because the words in the manual mean things.
Yeah.
Yes.
But they mean something when you put them together too. They have to.
Yeah, that's...
Otherwise, you don't have language. You're not communicating anything.
So intent plus communication equals meaning is still what I'm coming out of this with.
I think so. I mean, I'm not confident about that at all because it's word
I'm not
math.
confident about anything now.
Because it's word math. But yeah, like, there's something there to that. Like, you can't... I don't want to just use and do it again. Like, I'm just saying, you can't do this. I want to be able to explain it. But yeah, I mean, I can't think of a situation where you would try to communicate something to someone, but there wouldn't be any meaning there. Because when you're communicating something, there's an intent, and when there's an intent to communicate, there's meaning. So maybe, yeah.
I think there's a difference between, like, I'm gonna just throw these out there, hard and soft meaning.
What do you? How are you define meaning for me in your mind?
So, soft meaning is the things that you wake up for in life, the things that keep you going, the big M meaning, man's search for meaning kind of meaning,
right?
And then meaning being swapped for definition.
Yeah,
that's like your hard meaning that can very easily be quantified.
Well, you can't have the former without the latter.
Like the definition of pork. What does pork mean? That's what I mean with that. And there we go. Now mean has... I'm saying this word so often it's lost all meaning.
Oh, no. Anti-meaningception.
So... Yeah, there's hard and soft meaning is what I'm coming to.
Yeah, but you can't have the former without the latter. Because you need words that have definitions in order to conceptualize what soft meaning is.
Yeah. But there's a world of difference between, I guess, existential meaning and the meaning of popcorn.
It depends on the question. It does. I hate to say that, but it's true. It depends on the question. Maybe there is an existential question about popcorn. If there's one person
who wakes up in the morning and is driven to do great things because they know popcorn is in the world and that gives their life value to them, then okay, there's a crossover there, and I'm not going to deny that.
And he has a name, Orville Redenbacher.
That man's been dead for 100 years. I don't know when Orville Redenbacher died. I know he didn't see the microwave. Actually, I don't know if he saw the microwave.
You don't need a microwave to pop popcorn.
Yeah, I have some popcorn that doesn't require a microwave. I've never used it.
So, we've gone down a rabbit hole here.
Yes,
a pretty deep rabbit hole. But let's see if we can
a rather conciliatory rabbit hole, because I feel like we're both lost in the sauce.
I know what I think.
I know you know what you think. I'm just not sure what you think.
Okay, so let's see. Let's get that back up here. I don't know your password. Do your thing. Open your phone back up so I can see, so I can make sense of life.
Spread them.
Okay.
We never quite answered who gets credit, and
so
while we were out smoking, what popped in my head was, does one person need to get credit?
Okay,
can a group get credit?
Let's try to answer that first, and then we'll dive into that other part of the question.
I mean, for a work of film is art. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Who gets credit for it?
Not the people who invented the camera.
Right.
If you watch the credits for a film, unless you go way, way, way back, you're not going to see, and even then you wouldn't, because there weren't rules for these things, like credit. There weren't credits, really. But you're not going to see the inventor of the camera. You're not going to see Thomas Edison's name on every film, in every film. Not Thomas Edison didn't invent the camera, but you know what I mean. You're not going to see his name on every single credit roll for film.
Right.
No. So the person who invented the tools to make film don't really get credit as the artist.
It's a collaborative effort.
It is a collaborative effort.
Because you might have just outstanding direction, but piss poor actors.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
And you're not going to end up with a good product. You're not going to end up with something that communicates what the...
Finish that sentence, please.
Yeah. I was going to say director, but the director might be fucking that one up.
Well, they all have intent. There's something they intend to do.
Sometimes that intent clashes, and sometimes that comes across good. It makes the work better.
Yep.
Thinking Island of Dr. Moreau. Mm-hmm. That's a good movie, but not the reason they wanted it to be.
So, who gets credit is the person who does the work, right? So,
well, is it the person who does the most work, or the person who...
No one person for a film. No one person. Let's try and keep this as clear as possible.
That's what I'm trying to say.
You got the film. That's the piece, right? And then each person gets credit for the part of that they had in it. So your director gets credit as the director. Your writer, the writer. Painter, the painter. Whatever it happens to be. Mm-hmm. But they only get credit for the part that they worked on. They don't get credit as the creator and artist of the whole film.
Yeah.
And so far as there is someone like that, yeah. Insofar as there is something like that, it's usually given to the director or the producer, much to the chagrin of the writer. But yeah, usually it's the director.
So who builds the...
Sometimes it's the actor, though.
Who builds the blueprint for a film?
The writer.
Okay. Applying the film analogy to this whole thing, right? You've got, I'd say the writer is the programmer. They build the framework.
Yeah, okay. I was going through that and I was like, okay, but do they use the language to create? Yeah, and that's what a programmer does. And that's so yeah, okay, that makes sense. The writer is the programmer of the film. All right.
The person typing in the keyword is the director.
The person typing in the keyword?
Yeah. They're the ones giving direction to the algorithm. They're the ones pointing out, this is my goal.
Okay. What's the algorithm?
That's where I'm trying to come up. That's what I'm trying to figure out with this analogy. If this analogy is even adequate.
I think it is. I think the answer to that question, to me, seems relatively clear. It's everybody else. It's everybody else because they are the machine. The actors, the cameraman, like all the people the director is directing, that's the...
No, there's four parts of this system.
Well, hang on. Okay, so you've got the director, who we're saying is the programmer. That makes sense. Or not the programmer, I'm sorry. Is the person typing in the keywords. We've got the writer, who's the programmer. That all makes sense. So what is the director typing those keywords into? Well, they're creating commands to the people that they are directing. So the actors, the film crew, all those, like they are the AI art generator in this analogy here. I don't think you can get any more specific than that. But that's a whole bunch of people who are consciously thinking about the meaning that is supposed to be involved in this thing, and they're doing their job. They're critically evaluating what it is that is their job and how to assemble it the way that their craft dictates.
Okay.
What is an actual AI art generator doing? Is that the same thing? Are those two processes the same? If we can figure that out, then really I think what we're trying to answer here is, can you give the programmer or the generator credit as the artist? Or can you give that credit to the person typing in the keywords? Are they the artist? Because you only have one piece of art that is being generated. And when we're just saying you type certain keywords, go in, one piece of art comes out. Right? So who gets...
From what I understand, it's actually like multiple pieces that poop out depending on the...
Oh, yeah. But,
depending on the program.
Right. And you can kind of choose which one's the closest to what you wanted. But, yeah, so who is the artist in that situation? Who's going to get credit? In a film, everybody gets credit for the part that they had in it. But when you generate that AI art, when that piece of art comes out, who is getting credit for that? Who all is getting credit as an artist? Because the generator's not getting credit. The generator has no use for that credit. The programmer might be. That's why whenever you see a lot of AI art being generated, you'll see the little tag at the bottom that says, Mid-Journey or something like that. Because while technically that is the name of the algorithm, when you really boil it down. It's the name of the program. It's not the program that's getting the credit. It's the programmer who created the
team
program.
of programmers.
Or the team of programmers. They're getting non-specific credit for that. Because you're not going to see all their names at the bottom of every piece of
it's kind of like
AI art.
like in a film, putting down,
Special thanks to the people at this studio. Yeah.
Or special effects by ILM.
Right.
You're crediting that entire group rather than each individual.
Yeah.
So, a lot as far as the beef with who gets credit, and I'm picking up some beef from craft artists whose work has been
used without their consent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why we have that next question of
right.
Is it stealing the art? Or is it the same thing as a human artist going out and using reference photos? Because there is a profession that does this more specifically, like this, almost pretty much the exact same way that AI art does it. Photo bashing. People who work in visual development artists, they do this, where they literally go out and they take random images from the internet, and they don't actually have to credit that artist as long as the art is, the derivative art is sufficiently different from the art from which it came. And that's what those people do. That's literally their job. And the reason this is a difficult question for me is because I can't really see... There's one difference I can see, and maybe this is what makes it important because it goes into my next question. The visual development artist has intent. They're doing it with an understanding of the craft, and they're doing it to create something very specific, and they know why they're doing what they're doing. Right? So I guess the question I have is, can you have art without intent? Because if you can't have art without intent, then AI art can... Well, we'll say this, be more specific than that. Then the AI art generator cannot be considered the artist. You'd have to cut the generator out of that equation because it can't do intent. The programmer can, but to a very, very...
it's not direct.
Yeah, it's indirect. Very indirect.
I wouldn't say very. It's indirect.
I'd say it's very indirect because of the scope of what they do. They're not... It's like you invented an Omni machine. Can you really get credit for every little thing that comes out of that? Does that make sense? What the programmer does, it just created the machine and created the program, and the program is making all kinds of art. All kinds. You can't really credit the programmer for actually making any of those individual pieces of art because their intent was not to create every individual piece of that art. Their intent was to create a program that allowed that process to take place. So for me, anyway, that can help us remove the programmer really from the position of credit as an artist, because that's not what they do. So really, I think this boils down to...
So this is why Hollywood always cuts the writer out.
Hollywood famously hates the writers.
Yeah.
Well, they love them because they're the ones but ideas are cheap.
Right.
I'll give Hollywood that. That's actually true. You can come across great ideas for stories all over the place.
I come up with them all the time.
Yeah, most people do. I mean, I've come across, like, hell, I've met 5-year-olds that would tell me a little story. I'm like, if you had somebody who could write this, it would be a good story. So story, like, those kinds of things are cheap. But, so we can maybe eliminate the generator and the programmer from having credit as an artist. So who do we have left? We've got the person plugging in the keywords, and we've got the people who created the art that generator is drawing from. And I think we can probably eliminate the actual artist who generated that art too. Now I say that with some difficulty because I am one of those people, right? I'm sure AI art is probably pulled from something that I've illustrated at some point. But actually, that may be a little bit arrogant. Probably not, actually. There's a lot of art out there. But
I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah, the more I thought about that, I was just like... I was thinking about AI art being as ubiquitous and drawing from everything, and thinking that maybe that meant it was inevitable that it drew from my work at some point.
No, it has to draw from a limited pool at some point.
Yeah.
You can't... Otherwise, that image would...
Right.
You might get it a year and a half after you type the keyword in.
And most of what it's drawing from are photographs. It's not even really... See, that's another thing I'm really curious about with AI art generators. How does it know to pull from photos versus illustration?
I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's one of those things one of those problems you run into. I saw something. It was an advertisement on.
Get your finger out of my face.
It was an advertisement on Facebook for keyword bundles for AI art generators.
That is really strange.
Yeah, they even had like an ad that looked like these things came in a box. It's like you have a box of concepts. It's a box of espionage. That's what it made me think of.
Yeah,
the crate of espionage. But yeah, so it looked like like you'd buy Photoshop. It would have that like like when you used to have to get Photoshop on a disk and download it on your computer, right? It looked like that, except it was like bundles for keywords that you could put into an AI art generator to get specific pieces of art. It's like, what the hell am I looking at?
Well, just before I forget to going back to the beef of people whose art has been that. One, I don't know how you know your art's been used.
You wouldn't.
Yeah, and that's you wouldn't know. So.
But a visual development artist is also not required to let you know that they've used their art if their art is sufficiently, yeah. So we can technically sort of throw that out as a problem.
Well, it is. It's obviously a problem for some people.
Mm.
You can't tell me it's not. I mean, I'm going to be the last one around to say that you're having an emotional reaction, therefore it's completely invalid. No, emotional reasoning is still reasoning.
Yeah.
So just because you can't necessarily rationalize why you're having the issue, doesn't mean that the issue doesn't exist.
Well, I know, and as an artist, it's my argument would be, well, if you're going to be upset, and I say this as an artist, if you're going to be upset about AI art doing it, why don't you get upset when visual development artists do it, or people whose profession it is to some extent to photo bash?
For all we know, for all I know, people do. That's
not to my knowledge. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but everything I've learned about it is pointed to no. As long as it's clear that you've changed the art to a certain degree, they can't really come at you for it.
And the solution that popped in my head was, well, this is a machine. It's going to keep a log.
Mm.
If you throw into the metadata of the image that it generates, the influences that it drew to make that image, you have your credits.
Yeah. Technically, yeah.
No, technically about it. These are the images that it drew from.
Right. Yeah.
Your credits would be in the metadata.
Yep.
You would get credit for your contribution.
I mean,
now it's the.
Well, yeah, actually, in a weird way, you get more credit for it in that regard than you would if a visual development artist did it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is no metadata; they're just looking at it and then drawing it.
Right.
Or they're pulling that image into Photoshop, but it's not going to keep. As far as I know, Photoshop's not going to keep the metadata from that image that you drew into it. I don't think it does.
No, it would. It'd have to.
Even after you've done all the edits to the image?
I mean, until you hit compile.
Mm.
Until you make the final compilation, because from what I understand of how Photoshop works, is
maybe
it keeps
PSD,
a file of how that image was built.
Right. Maybe the PSD would.
Which would mean it'd have to keep a record of where those images came from in Photoshop.
Well, it wouldn't necessarily have to keep a record of exactly where it came from, but it would have to keep, I would think, it would have to keep a record of the names of those files.
Right.
Because
which you can change when you download them, but...
Right, well, yeah, and all it's going to... Yeah, that's true. All it's going to keep track of is the file is named this, and the pixels look like this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to keep any other information.
No, it would keep when it was created, when it was transferred, when it was modified.
I would think. I don't know for a fact. We're talking about it would have to be in the PSD file. It's not going to be in the JPEG or the PNG or whatever because that's the compiled version of it.
Digital forensics, from what it could follow that rabbit hole. And doing a reverse Google image search would be...
Yeah, you could do that.
You could definitely figure out where that came from.
Not necessarily. It depends on how far removed from the original image your artwork is.
You can go through archives and find out when was the first time that was put up.
Not if you were just plugging a PNG into a reverse Google search. You wouldn't be able to do that if the art that was created from the photo bashing was sufficiently different, and you really don't have to do that much.
I'm working from, okay, you got your photo bash.
Mm.
There would be a file before the compilation that would be a Photoshop file.
Yeah, PSD, yeah.
Yeah, that would have to save each of the images that were used to compile that image. You could take each of those images and follow the metadata.
Not necessarily. Because when you bring that image into Photoshop, it's not reading really where it came from. All it's really reading is, okay, what's the title of it, and where are the pixels, and what color are they?
Mm-hmm.
That's all it really needs to know in order to be able to manipulate that image. So when
it would have the image in there, is what I'm saying. You could... It would also keep a record of each time that image was altered in that file. Otherwise, you couldn't Control Z. You couldn't undo.
Right. Okay, fair enough.
So it would have to have the original, or the sample of the original at least, in that photo bash. And you could take that original image that was taken, and
it's going to come down to whether or not the PSD overwrites that information as you edit it. And I don't know if
it does not. It can't.
No.
It can't for it to function.
All right. Well, let's not go too far down that rabbit hole because
of the changes made, you can't do an undo.
You can do an undo back to a certain point. Photoshop does not have infinite undos, so that information does get overwritten at some point.
Okay.
So I think let's jump back away from this rabbit hole because there's going to be too many.
All I'm saying is there's probably a way to credit the images drawn in a photo bash. There's probably a way to do that.
It depends on whether it gets overwritten, and we don't know the answer to that, so we can't answer that question.
I'm not convinced it's 100%, but I'd be surprised if there's no way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, considering digital forensics is a thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's get back to where we were right before that. We've managed to sort of push out some of these because we're trying to identify who could get credited as the artist. And it seems to me that we're basically down to, okay, it's either the person who's inputting the keywords, or it's actually I think we've narrowed it down really to that person, because the only other option really is the original artist that created the art that the generator is drawing it from.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that they are a artist, but they're not technically the artist because there's multiple artists' work that's being used to generate this new image. So the only person we're left with is, which I'm trying to do this methodically, systematically, so we actually hopefully can get somewhere with this episode.
I think I really think the only way to... This is such a collaborative thing that there is no one artist. I don't think you can go that specific with this kind of thing.
Well, let's keep going here and see what we end up with. So we kind of narrowed it down to maybe it's the person who plugs in the keywords. So is there an argument there? Is the person plugging in the keywords the artist for when it comes to generating AI generated art?
Only in so much as a director gives direction.
I think that's probably true. Because they don't know the craft. Not even, see, that's the thing. Directors know the craft.
Well, you are making the inference that the person putting the keyword in doesn't have an idea of what they're doing there.
If they could produce it without the AI art, why would they produce it with it? I think there's a good answer to this, but I want to know what you think.
I mean, you could... I'd like ideas. You know, it's like the idea button of what I'd want to do. I'm not an artist, man. I don't do this professionally.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even do this well, okay, I do it amateurishly.
When I do. I don't always art, but when I do.
You can count it's pretty low effort. Or low quality.
Right. So
I will pore over an image of Battle Ham for hours.
So what I'm getting at here is, we'll start with this, and then we'll jump back to what we were talking about just before it. So what I'm getting at here is really a question, much to the chagrin of the listeners probably. Can you have art without an artist? So we got to figure out who the artist is, and if we can't identify one, can there be art? The artist, if we're going to say that so what does the person plugging in the keywords do when it comes to AI art generation? They don't necessarily, and I would say reasonably, you could say that often they don't know the craft. That's why a lot of people use it. That's why a lot of people use it, because they want something that looks artistic, that they can use for, an album cover or a profile picture or something like that.
Or a roleplay setting.
Yeah, Phil. He has done that.
Are we going to use names?
Oh, well, didn't think about it.
You can use the bleep tool.
Yes. See, you said that, and in my head what I heard was a bleep tool, but everybody's name is Phil. So you don't know when we're actually talking about Phil. Anyway.
If we'd have done that the entire show, that would work.
So... All right, so what they're doing is they're just plugging words into an algorithm, and we already established the algorithm isn't really the artist because it doesn't have any intent. It's not doing anything purposefully, really. The person who gives it purpose is the programmer, and the programmer isn't giving it a specific create this piece of art purpose. It's giving it a...
It's giving it a set of rules.
It's giving you a set of rules. Giving it a set of
parameters.
And parameters, but they're very, very broad.
And a process.
And a process. But it's very, very broad. It's not you are this generator is this kind of artist. Although it could theoretically do that. To what degree of accuracy, again, it's going to come down to the keyword, whether or not the keywords are useful.
The first the first AI artist that I remember hearing about, I don't know the name of the program. It was, I'm going to say shown, but you know what I mean. All the works of Van Gogh, and then was told make a new painting in this style, and it produced a quote new Van Gogh.
Right.
That as a control, they tested against people who studied Van Gogh, and we know this isn't a Van Gogh, but if I didn't know this wasn't a Van Gogh, I'd swear it's a Van Gogh.
That sentence doesn't mean anything. It's sort of self-evident.
Well, we know he didn't make this. But if we didn't,
if you hadn't told us that it was built by an AI,
no, they didn't tell it. They didn't tell him it was of an AI.
Oh, so then they knew that it wasn't just by looking at it.
It's along the lines of if.
Oh, they know his body of work.
Okay. If we know Van Gogh's body of work inside and out. If there was a massive gap, they'd have thought it was a lost work.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Okay.
That's what I meant by that.
Okay.
So it can replicate a specific artist.
Yeah.
Or at least that program could replicate Van Gogh's style.
Well, right, because it's being fed very specific keywords, very specific inspiration, for lack of better words, right? What it's drawing from is really
keywords. This wasn't a net.
Right, but it's drawing from such a specific body of work that it can generate something that specific.
Right.
But the programmer isn't building a Van Gogh art generator. It's building a general art generator, like draw from keywords on the internet and do your best, I guess.
And it was so the whole team of programmers that made the Van Gogh bot.
Right. But the programmer isn't an artist. He's a programmer. Right. So he's not, because what he's built is a tool. It's not art. He built a tool that mimics or approximates art, because that's all it can really do. It doesn't have intent. It can't critically evaluate what it's looking at, really. It can only go by like you said, it's the binary code, what those numbers and things mean. It's not...
By my understanding.
Right.
And I could be completely wrong
Well, all of it boils down to binary, right? I mean, all of it boils down to that. That's like that's the bottom.
That is...
Not a very useful way to look at it, but...
For a human.
Right, well, when you build that binary up, it becomes like programming languages and things like that.
You little dick.
It becomes programming languages and things like that. It's still binary, but people write in programming languages. Mm-hmm. They don't often write in binary. Very specific people do that. That's, yeah. But, so that's what I'm saying. The programmer is not an artist. They're not the ones that are producing specific pieces of art. They've only once produced the program, and maybe they're maintaining it too, that then mimics an artist, I guess. They can't do anything unless somebody else
gives them... Is there an artistry to programming?
That's a whole different...
I know, but
we're not talking
popped
about...
in my head,
I know.
and I had to ask it. And you know I had to ask it, man.
We're not talking about whether or not the programming itself is an art. We're talking about whether or not the programmer is basically the painter of the art that's being generated. And they're not. That's a pretty easy thing to say.
Of the specific image, yes, I will agree with that.
Yeah. So
with no contention.
We're down to the person who's plugging in the keywords. Are they the artist? They are the ones who are feeding it meaning.
Yeah, they're the ones feeding it the big M meaning.
And intent. So they're probably the closest thing to the artist of this piece of art that you can get.
Yes.
But are they an artist? This is where the issue of AI art begins. It's not, and it may be where it ends.
We just got to the beginning.
Well, this is the first question that a lot of people asked: is this, hack who doesn't know anything about art, who doesn't study the craft, plugging words into a computer, and in 15 seconds pumping out some piece of horrifying art. To be honest, I mean, a lot of it is uncanny from what I've seen. Does that make them an artist? Doesn't make them an artist because they plugged some keywords into an algorithm and got something useful.
Okay.
You agreed to this conversation.
Yes, I did, and I'm...
We're at 45 minutes on this section.
Yeah, I know.
You want to pause and take a minute to think about this? And then our next section will be our last section.
I need caffeine and smoke.
All right, we'll take a break and we'll come back. After 6 months in the Dade County Jail, Butch is back. From Discovery Channel and PETA, People for the Unethical Treatment of Animals, Butch Chumstock, Manatee Hunter. These bloated, murderous sea cows have been the protected darling of the mainstream zoological media for too long, and now Butch is setting the record straight in this tell-all shockumentary.
They killed my wife and raped my brine shrimp. They're vicious, man-eating, sea monkey molesting abominations unto the Lord Poseidon, and I'm gonna make it right.
No manatee will manatee your child. Manatee is safe from the righteous vengeance of Butch Chumstock, mercenary for the American Seaweed Council.
Manatees, the sirens of the sea, luring young, virile, sinewy sailors to secret coves with their sultry shrieking and mammalian wiles, where they perform wicked pagan rituals and engage in tantric digestive cleansing. I won't stand for it. The American people won't stand for it. Not on my coastline.
Witness Butch's polemic campaign against this oceanic menace in Discovery's new special limited documentary series, Butch Chumstock, The Folly of Manatee, streaming this March only on Discovery Kids. And we're back. Okay. When we left off, the question that we were kind of dealing with was, who is the artist? And we were able to eliminate, so who was the artist in this whole equation of AI art? Because, you've got the person who programs the generator, then you've got the generator.
The algorithm.
Which is the algorithm. And then you've got, damn it, Vespasian. It's like he waits until the recording starts.
Kitty cat, I'm going to destroy you.
Then you've got the algorithm, which is the generator, and then you've got the person punching in the keywords to get the art from the generator. And then you also mentioned the original artists of the art that the people...
The referenced artists.
Right, the referenced artists.
Which, in the film analogy, the referenced artists were, I'm going to say, the films that came before.
Right. So, I got you. Yeah, so we were able to eliminate a few of them. We pretty much knocked out... well, we basically boiled it down to either the... I'll call him the keyworder, which is the person punching in the keywords.
We can't call him the word puncher?
We could call him the word puncher. Okay, it's the word puncher. Or the original artists of the pieces that are being referenced. Or not just referenced, but used. So, yeah, we eliminated the programmer and the generator. So, the point that I'm going to try to make here, then, is... I'm going to say that the artist, if you're going to give any part of that equation the word artist, if you're going to ascribe that word to any part of it, it would have to be the word puncher. And I think that's, and maybe even the audience is like, well, no shit. That's what anybody would have assumed from the beginning. And to be fair, they're right. It's the person who's trying to generate the art. But there's a problem that we're running into here. So
for some.
Well, okay. So can that person be considered an artist based on what it is they do in order for the art to be created? Because they're not creating the art. They're not. They are not the creator of the art. They are, at best, the conceptor of the art. I don't really know how to distinguish that, because here's the process.
The executive producer in here.
This is the I don't want notes from the network executives, okay? No notes from the network executives.
You're always going to get notes from the executive directors or from the network executives.
Okay. So, the problem we're running into is the way I've got this, the notes that I've written on this is, so the word puncher is the one, is technically the artist, right? They bear the specified intent. It's significant. I think that's the most important thing if you're going to try and dictate who the artist is in an equation like that, is who has the intent to create the art. And it has to be relatively specific, right? And that's the person who's punching, they're the word puncher.
To create that specific piece.
Yes.
Okay, and that's an important caveat.
I think it's significant.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have
to go back to the programmer.
Why?
Because you don't build an AI to make art without the intent to make art.
Well, no. Okay.
If
that were true, we would have to give credit to an entire... whenever we would see a TV show or something like that, or maybe even a painting, you would have to give credit to the entire art school that artist came from. And you don't do that, for obvious reasons.
When you're talking about the specific work,
yeah.
then the word puncher works.
Yeah. That's why I'm saying the word puncher is the artist in that equation.
To make that
And I'm putting artist in quotes. Yes.
To make that specific intent.
Yeah.
Or that specific work.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't found an art school to not make art.
Right. Do you found an art school to make AI art?
The AI art, or the programmer, might be considered that art school to make. And when I say art school, I mean specific, like, style of art. Like, what styles of art are there?
I mean, are you talking about mediums or actual styles?
Actual styles. That's what I mean by school.
Okay, so I mean things like expressionism or impressionism. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you would start a school for impressionist AI art. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, each one of those programs is going to have its own little...
So the program could, in theory, specifically draw from impressionist artists in order for the AI word puncher, the student at that school, to be able to create impressionist AI art.
Well, not just...
And what are you teaching
Not
them?
just not just the AI only draws from impressionist works, but
How's it going to create an impressionist piece of artwork if it doesn't do that?
Well, there are certain aspects that make a work impressionist, yes? Otherwise, you can't differentiate it from other works of art.
Right.
Well, however that algorithm is made, however it's written, it can... Shit, we've seen these. You know, hey, take a picture of yourself, plug it in through this image processing software, and then it comes out, this is you as drawn by Picasso, or...
Yeah, because it's drawing specifically from examples of Picasso's artwork.
Not necessarily.
You're going to have to explain that.
Not, someone else looked at Picasso's artwork. It could be that someone else looked at Picasso's artwork and noticed, okay, there are all these little things that Picasso did in his artwork.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just going to take those and apply it to this one image.
Yeah.
So someone interpreted, a living person interpreted Picasso's art to apply it to a specific image. That's different from the AI-generated art that we've been talking about. Yes?
Yeah, maybe I'm confused about the scenario you're painting a picture of here. We're talking about students in a theoretical college or school used to teach them...
Again, when I say school, I mean style.
Oh, okay. Start from the beginning and paint this picture that you're trying to...
I'm not an artist. You're expecting me to paint? I've mentioned this how many times, Dave?
If I'm going to...
I can give you all the battle hands you want.
Oh, God.
But
if I'm going to understand and be able to talk about this, I gotta understand exactly what you're actually trying to do here. So
okay.
Paint me the picture.
The AI art, the AI aspect of this artist, for lack of a better term, sometimes I feel the English language is not expansive enough, or at least my knowledge of it, isn't always creating completely independent works. Instead of drawing from as many reference artists as it can to make an original work, instead it's just a very basic, you plug an image into it and it applies a style to it to make basically editing the image in a certain style.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I'm talking about here.
Okay.
So, to perform that kind of operation, you don't need to draw from every work. Like, to go back to the Picasso example.
Yeah.
The algorithm itself does not draw from every work of Picasso.
Exactly.
No, it's one human who's looked at all the works of Picasso. Notice that the works of Picasso have identifying features that make it a Picasso.
Yeah.
Then they determine, okay, the bot that I'm programming is going to apply those features to an image fed to it.
Okay, I can see what you're doing, but that's completely unnecessary to have that human in the middle of that.
You wanted me to explain this.
Yeah, no, so that I could say that.
You dick.
No, that's not what I mean. No.
Report to the ball kicker.
I understand now, but that person that you've inserted into there, they don't need to be there. The AI generator doesn't need that person. I mean, they need somebody to program the connection between the AI and the artwork that it's referencing. But
the AI itself is not referencing the work in this particular example.
It's referencing what the programmer has told it should do?
It's just doing what the programmer tells it should do.
What's the programmer telling it?
To any image that's put in it.
That it should do. Because it sounds to me like the AI that you're talking about in this example is way more advanced than anything we have right now.
It's less advanced. And we have plenty of these things. I see ads for them on Facebook all the time. Like, take your profile picture, plug it in here, and it makes it look like what it would in an anime.
Right. But here's the thing.
It's not drawing... The algorithm itself is not drawing directly from a wide range of reference art.
I'm pretty sure it is.
It's just doing what the programmer tells it to do.
Which is to reference
No,
art
it's not
from the
referencing
internet.
those arts. It's not referencing that art from the internet. It's applying specific programming markers, which is far less advanced than the AI artists we've been talking about now, or for most of the broadcast. Most episode, we'll call it episode.
Where are you getting your information on how these things function?
Just by looking at what it does. It only does one thing.
Yeah.
You can take, in the anime portrait example, it's not drawing from all these different animes, because even within animes there's different art styles.
Yeah, it's drawing from the specific art style that generator advertises that it will do.
Right, but it doesn't apply the adjustments by looking at all these looking at all the anime and then, or even specific anime, and then taking the image you're feeding into it to have altered.
Yeah.
Then actively applying all this. No, it's just in a programmer's interpretation of what's important to make that style what it is. Then the algorithm just makes the adjustments to the image that the programmer told it to make.
Okay, I don't think that's how that works, and to be fair, neither of us actually know, apparently, that's why I asked you that, how that is actually programmed. My assumption...
There are smartphones that can do that kind of thing and have been able for years.
They're drawing. My assumption has been, as far as I was understand it, that it was drawing from images from the internet that have those specific types of keywords. Like it says, maybe the AI art generator is saying, this is what you'd look like as a Sailor Moon character. And so that generator is referencing specifically these illustrations of Sailor Moon. It probably uses a couple as a base. And it just starts with that image.
It uses a template.
And then maybe applies hair color and eye color and things like that. Because you might have noticed those generators don't tend to work very well.
Right.
They usually look pretty damn generic.
I mean, I've never used one.
What?
So yeah, I'm probably talking out of my ass here.
So let's jump back off of that, because I think we're going down another one of those areas where we don't know enough about what we're actually talking about to be sure that a point can be made there. So if the word puncher
I love
is the artist, and they would have to be, as far as we've been able to sort of deduce.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the only one that can be the artist, are they an artist?
Yeah, what makes an artist versus the artist?
Well, what I've written down here is the word puncher is the one communicating meaning. I mentioned that before we got on that, is that they're the one with the specified intent, and I think that's what makes them the artist in quotes. They're the ones that actually has the idea for what they want in their head, and they're trying to get that out of this algorithm. So if they're the ones that are trying to communicate meaning. That's what that process is. But they're not doing it through craft or understanding of art. Now that may seem pretentious, and I understand why somebody would think that it's pretentious. It's like, we already know, and I would agree, that you don't have to be trained as an artist in order to create art. There's outsider art, and some of it's very good.
There's children art.
Yeah. But they're not even doing it the way that children do or outsider artists do, right? They're not using any actual craft medium. They're not doing anything. They're typing words into an algorithm, right? So they're doing it through imprecise words, although maybe with more advanced art AI generators, you can be more specific with your wording. But they're throwing it into, and this is, I think, the most important distinction. They're not creating the art. They're commanding the AI art generator to do it, and what that AI art generator is doing is art it's an art synthesizer by both meanings of that word. It's synthetic, and it's a synthesis of the references that it's pulling from. I don't think you can call someone an artist if that's what they're doing. Because the generator is technically creating the art. The person punching in the word puncher, they're not doing anything artistic. They're not. They've got an idea, they're plugging some words into an algorithm, and the algorithm is doing all the work for them. And all that work that the algorithm is doing is synthesis. It's not creative. It's creating something, so in that sense it's creative. But it's not creative in the sense that it's not creative in the way that people can be creative. It's not critically evaluating something about life and then trying to communicate it through a piece of artwork. That is not what it's doing at all. And we already talked about, in order for there to be art, we establish that it needs to have intent and it needs to have meaning. And the generator can't do that.
All right. Is Neil Breen an artist?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't really seem to evaluate anything critically.
No, he's evaluating things critically. He's just really dumb about it. I didn't say you had to do it well. That's why we say kid art is still art.
So,
not that it's really good by craft measure.
How does one evaluate art critically?
Well, that's the communication part of it. Even somebody who doesn't know anything about art, when they go to a museum, they're still evaluating the art critically. They're trying to see if they can get something out of it. What does it mean? Maybe they're trying to figure out what it meant to the artist, and then in conjunction with that, they're trying to figure out what it means to them. And that's what the communication is.
Then the algorithm is evaluating anything in front of it critically.
No. Because it's not evaluating meaning.
No, but you didn't say specifically meaning. It's trying to get something out of it, right?
The generator?
Yeah.
Is it trying to get something out of it?
Because if it wasn't trying to get anything out of it, out of the reference materials, why does it need the reference materials?
Is it trying to get something out of it? Okay. Technically, the process that it's going through is pulling... It's almost like a meaning launderer. It doesn't understand what it's doing.
It's a Chinese box.
Is that a specific reference to something?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know what a Chinese box is.
All right. Excuse me, not a Chinese box, a Chinese room.
Oh, okay.
Have you heard of that one?
No.
All right. So the Chinese room is, last I checked, you're an American white guy who doesn't understand Chinese, right?
Right.
Okay. So we're going to put you in a room. And there's going to be a big old book right next to you.
Okay.
And you're given the instruction, when something comes through the door, you're going to look at it, and you're going to cross-reference all the symbols on there, and go through this book, and you will write out a response based off of what the book is telling you to do.
So something comes into the room.
Mm-hmm. It has Chinese writing on it. You don't understand Chinese.
So is this something a specific thing, or am I just... Or all those...
It's a thought experiment.
Is it like a scroll that comes in that has Chinese writing on it?
It could be a scroll, it could be a piece of paper. It has... Something comes in with Chinese writing on it.
Okay, okay.
So, you don't know Chinese.
No.
But you have a book that gives you, all right, you find this image, you make this response to this character. And you write that out.
Oh, I know
and
exactly.
And then you send it back out.
It's not that I know what the hell I wrote. I was just told that this is the response to this.
This is the proper response to this.
Right. Okay, yeah.
So it's
a Chinese room.
Yeah, that is the Chinese room thought experiment.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense then, I think.
So the algorithm is a Chinese room.
Yeah.
It's still spitting out meaning, it just doesn't understand it.
Right, and that actually works with what I was arguing with you in, I think, the first part of this, which was...
So, who made the... Is there a change in meaning that comes...
Well, it could be lying and I wouldn't know.
Yeah, you wouldn't even know.
Yeah, which is what I was referencing, and I think in the first part of this episode when I said, well, look, you could, if a bunch of artists started giving bullshit keywords to their art, the algorithm's not going to know that, and so you're going to start getting ridiculous, like the AI art generator's basically going to break. I mean, it won't break, like it's not actually physically going to break, but it's going to start spitting out pieces of artwork that are not at all what the word puncher is actually putting in.
There's a way around that one. Tell it not to reference, or not to use anything as a reference prior to when they started doing that.
We can do that.
Not going to solve the problem.
Well, to an extent. There's enough art that you'd probably get away with that for a long time, but...
Probably 1,000 years or so.
Yeah. But, okay, so...
So does the Chinese room have meaning in and of itself?
The Chinese... Oh, good God. Does the Chinese room have meaning in and of itself? The concept of the Chinese room...
Are you communicating in the Chinese room?
That I don't know. I mean, technically, yeah. But I have to... I mean, I'm taking it as a given that what I'm being told is accurate.
Sorry, French fry.
No, you're fine. I'm not sure... I'm not sure how we're reconciling this with the point of, that we're making about the art generator.
I mean, that's what the art generator is. It's a Chinese room.
Okay. I would assume your point is to say that is to reference that there's an art, that could be an an artist, but I'm not sure if that's what you're doing. What's the underlying point here?
I'm not exactly sure now. I started with a concept on this, and now I've lost the plot. Am I with concede yet?
Well, the argument that I'm making is that the generator is an art synthesizer. It's not an artist, because it doesn't have the capability of actually meaningfully communicating anything. Not really. It's doing a job that it doesn't understand. Understanding might be the key word there.
Like you in the Chinese room.
Yeah. So it's not actually creating art on it by will. There's no will there. There's no will to art. So we can another reason that we can cut the generator out of that equation. But then that leaves again the word puncher. And the word puncher isn't doing that either. They have the specific intent. They're the ones with the idea in their head. But they're not doing the actual labor to create the piece of artwork that they're...
So in order to make art, you have to have the intent, and you have to be the one to craft it.
I think so. Yeah.
Which brings me back to film.
Okay.
Does the director act all the parts?
No.
Is film art?
Yes.
Do you see the contradiction there?
No, because the director has willful, meaningful, creative intent.
Yeah, but he's not the maker.
He's part of the collection of makers.
What happens if you remove the director?
Somebody else is going to have to start directing at some point.
Well, if you remove the director and you don't get another one, what happens?
You don't have a film.
Why?
Because nobody knows what to do.
You have no intent, but you have plenty of craft.
Yeah. Well, there's still intent there. It's just that nobody knows what to do with it.
Yeah, but the director gets the credit.
As a director.
I mean...
Not as an actor.
I mean, we established that the director was the artist in this situation. So I'm going back to the film.
Was an artist, not the artist. We established with film that there is not really a the artist.
All right, and then I'm bringing this back as the analogy to show you. We don't need to have one artist that gets the credit for AI art.
No, but we need at least one.
No, and we've got 3 different people to choose from, not counting the referenced artists.
No, we already established that those other people can't be considered the artist for various reasons. That's why we went through the last hour and a half.
To clarify, because I'm not sure this came through.
Okay.
We got rid of the writer/programmer.
Yeah.
Specific reason why? Why are they disqualified?
Because the programmer isn't creating a specific piece of art. They're creating the means to create art. That's why you don't, like I said, the inventor of the camera isn't going to get a credit on every movie ever made. They created the tool, but they didn't create the art.
Okay. The cast and crew in a film, which is the algorithm here, they have the craft, but they're not the artist.
Right. This is where I think this is where that analogy starts to break down, because the algorithm doesn't have intent. All the artists on a film do. It doesn't have creative will. All the artists on a film do.
Even though they don't all share the same vision.
Right. That's a negotiation.
So they all have the same intent to make a movie.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have to have craft and intent to be an artist.
You have to have intent to communicate something.
We already know the intent to communicate. I'm shortening it to intent.
I know. I'm rolling back over this to make sure I'm not missing anything. You have to have the intent to create something, or to communicate something, and there has to be. See, craft is the word I'm trying to be careful with, because you don't have to actually be trained in the craft in order to make art.
Mm-hmm.
But the tools that you use are craft tools, even if you don't, even if you're not trained on them. So yes, in that respect,
so you have to have the craft tools?
There has to be a craft to it, yes. Even if you're not trained on that craft, there has to be a craft to it.
Well, you said specifically tools.
Yeah.
How come the algorithm can't be the tool?
It is the tool.
So you have... It is a craft that brings it, or it is the tool that brings its own craft. That's what it does. That's what it was programmed to do. You're providing the intent. It has the craft and the tool.
It doesn't understand the craft and the tool. It doesn't understand what it's doing.
But you already said you don't have to understand the craft to be an artist.
You don't have to be trained on the craft, but you have to understand what you're doing.
No, I'm just talking about the craft itself. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you have said multiple times in this episode that you don't have to have an understanding of the craft to be an artist.
To create art.
So an artist is not one that creates art.
You don't have to have an understanding of the craft, but you have to craft the art.
You have to craft the art.
You know?
You have to have the intention to communicate.
Part of crafting the art is having the intention to communicate something. Those things, you can't separate those things. And that's what happens when you're talking about the AI art generator.
I thought that's what we were...
You're separating those two things apart.
All right. So the film analogy is off limits now.
I think it is.
Because it broke down where? With the cast and crew?
With the cast and crew being compared to the algorithm. Because the algorithm has no creative intent. Not any willful, conscious creative intent. It doesn't have that. It's not trying to communicate something meaningful. It's just doing what it's told to do.
The guy who holds
it has no agency.
The guy who holds the boom mic.
Yeah.
All he's doing is holding the boom mic. He doesn't necessarily have to have creative intent. He could just be holding the boom mic. His intent might just be to get another paycheck.
Yeah, he probably, I can't say this for sure, but he probably doesn't consider himself an artist the way that many of the other people do.
Right.
He's a technician, and he's skilled. But he probably doesn't consider himself an artist.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's not skilled. I'm trying to break down what makes the artist.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the person giving intent. So you have to have intent, right? I'm putting at the bullet points what makes it art.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to have intent, and I'm using intent short for intent to communicate.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
That's bullet point 1. Then one must utilize craft.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
Whatever that means.
They must singularly utilize the craft to communicate meaning.
Now, when you say the craft, do you mean the
Whatever
capital
is-
C craft that goes into
Whatever is required to make the type of art that they're trying to make.
All right.
Yeah.
So a painter must utilize paint.
Yeah, if they're going to be a painter.
Just to be an artist in the field of painting.
Yes, you have to use paint.
All right, you have to use paint.
Yes. You're not a painter if you generate digital AI art of paintings.
No, I'm removing the AI from
Okay.
from this entirely. I'm just
Right.
trying to figure out what makes an artist the artist of a work.
Mhm.
So, intent to communicate and the tools in a certain medium. You mentioned tools specifically earlier. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, the things that are required to make the craft or to make the piece of art based on what your intent is. If you're going to make an oil painting, you got to have the tools of the craft.
You got to use oil paint.
Right.
And the tools that go along with using oil paint.
Right.
I like the little scraper, personally. I don't know how to use it, but I always thought it was cool.
Palette knife.
You're a palette knife. So is that it?
Maybe the important thing here is that you can't disperse all of those things and have any real part of it be unconscious. I think that's really the point. Because you can't have an artist that doesn't have any intent to create art. And the generator doesn't have the intent to create art.
That's where the word puncher comes in. They provide the intent.
Yeah, but it's not a machine.
Well,
right?
Now we're saying you can't have collaborative art.
Well, you can have collaborative art, but when you have something like a film, because a film is a collaborative art,
Why can't a painting be collaborative?
You can have a collaborative painting.
Well...
But they're paintings by people with the intent to create like, there's no part of that equation that lacks intent. There's no part of that equation that lacks creative intent. When you're utilizing AI art, there's an element of that, and a big one, a huge part of it, the bulk of it. It has no will. It has no creative intent.
Okay, so there must be will.
When I say creative intent, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Okay.
The will to create art.
So you have to have the will to create art.
Yes.
The intent to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And the proper tools for the medium you're working in.
Yes. You have to be consciously involved in that.
In each step. So, each step has to have conscious intent.
Yeah.
Or it must be conscious.
I think so.
Nothing can be accidental.
No, I mean, you're always going to have accidents. But that's not the same thing as outsourcing the quote-unquote...
nothing can be incidental.
Okay. That's still rough, but I know what you mean. So, yeah, I wish there was a clearer way to put it, because I do know what you mean. Yeah, that's tough. I'm trying to think of a better way to phrase that. Because it really just boils down to you can't rely to that degree. You can't rely at that pitch. You can't rely on something without creative intent to create something and call it art. At least not... I don't want to use the word legitimate. At least not... Not really meaningful art. Not really.
Authentic art. Genuine.
There you go. Genuine or authentic. Those are better words to describe it, yeah. Now, you can still get something practical out of AI art if you're looking for an avatar or something like that. I mean, you could still use it. It's still usable. I'm not saying it's not usable. That would be ridiculous. That would be
or for a role play setting like Greg.
Right. Yeah, I mean that would be an absurd point to try to make because it's bullshit right on the face of it. But it can't be valued. It can't be valued the way that genuine art is valued. It can't.
Who dictates value?
Who dictates value?
Yeah, who makes the art valuable? And do you mean valuable or worth?
Maybe worth is a better word.
Who gives it value? Who gives it worth?
Worth.
Because those are two different things.
Right, and I think worth is a better term for that.
So who gives it that?
Well, the person who gives it value, to be fair, is whoever's willing to pay for it. Or trade for it or whatever.
Okay.
Whatever they're willing to give for it. The person who gives it worth...
And we're hitting that point where worth is like, okay, what does that actually mean?
Yeah. That's tough.
And I think you've got those reversed. Worth is typically is like a dollar amount.
Oh, okay. Well, then value is the right word then.
Value is, I believe in an economic sense, what are you willing to trade for it? Or what are you willing to give up for it is a better way to put that.
Usually when I think about that kind of thing, it's like, well, how...
I feel like I'm talking
How
about
rare is it? Ooh, here's an interesting thing. I didn't think about this until just now, since we're on this topic. Mm-hmm. How replicable is it? Because if you're using an AI art generator, any son of a bitch with a keyword packet, like we talked about before, could make the exact same piece of art as you. The exact same. And I don't mean the same in the way that a plagiarist, an art plagiarist is, or an art forger is, right? Because that's still different. Physically, it's different. It may look exactly the same, but we know it's not the same. But anybody could punch those same keywords into the same AI art generator and come up with the exact same pieces of art. So, if you both did that, here's something I've never heard anybody talk about when it comes to AI art. If the word puncher types in a handful of words into an AI art generator and gets a piece of artwork, and they use it...
I want to make the words ship, squish mitten, puppy.
Boy, that dog-legged. Literally. Okay. Let's say they put those words into the AI art generator. They get their piece of art out. They use it for something.
This horrifying piece of art.
Yes. They use it for something. Then somebody else uses those same keywords and punches them into the same AI art generator and comes out with the same piece of art. Mm-hmm. Who gets the copyright on that? Can you copyright that? There is no original artist. Not really.
Now you're getting into a simulacra.
It's relevant.
I'm not saying it's not. That's why I brought it up. You don't have to be so damn antagonistic, man.
You know, it's funny. When I listen to the recordings of these sometimes, like when we were doing the review before this, I was like, man, I sound a lot more antagonistic than I intended to be.
Are you starting to understand why people think you're pretentious?
A little bit. Yeah.
I can just stand the gap.
Yeah. I'm listening to it. When I get on one, yeah, I can see it.
I feel it all the time.
I'm only pretentious if you can prove me wrong.
I am twice as humble as you are. So, going just real quick.
Okay.
Did a quick Google search. Verb, consider to be important or beneficial, have a high opinion of. Worth, the value equivalent to that of someone or something under consideration, the value at which someone or something deserves to be valued or rated. So worth is like monetary value.
Okay.
Or monetary units in exchange. Value is more, do you consider it important?
Okay. Yeah, then I would say the generator can't give it value.
No, it doesn't give it value.
No. It could give it worth. It could give it worth.
No, worth is always made by the person willing to buy it. They're the ones giving up.
Yeah. Well, somebody in the equation
species.
can give it worth. But to be fair, somebody in that equation could give it value too. If they just really like the pieces of art that's pumped out.
You're not going to give up something that you don't consider valuable.
Right. But are they going to value it as much as they're going to value something like a Rembrandt, an original Rembrandt? Because it's like, well, look, I could punch the same keywords into that AI art generator and come up with that first one myself. Maybe.
Depends on how much randomization is in the algorithm.
Yeah.
For instance, just to give you an idea of how even just a comprehensible amount of randomization will really fuck things up.
Well, the thing creating the art doesn't have the creative intent, though. That's the problem.
It can have the random number generator in there that you might not end up... If you could plug the same keywords in...
That's fair enough.
And maybe not get the same image over and over again.
Right.
One of my favorite examples of randomization in a system. If you took a single deck of cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every day shuffled it and dealt it out and observed the order that they came out.
Yeah.
From the start of the universe till now, it would be only within the past 150 years that you'd be starting to get repeats.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
So if it's got a 52 card random number generator in there, you'd be stuck for a while trying to get
the same piece of art, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to that.
So replicability, not much of a problem. It's programmer knows what he's doing.
Fair enough. Well, let's go back to this. So the word puncher is putting words into the generator, and the generator is technically creating the piece of art.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
you
doing
say technically.
Yeah.
Why do you say technically?
Because it's building art, but it doesn't have the intent to build art.
So it's creating an image.
It's just creating an image.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that... Maybe this is a good way to make this definition of an artist. The artist has to be the entity... Let's see. The artist has to be the entity building the art with creative intent. I think that's a reasonable definition of an artist.
So can they be a cybernetic organism? And I don't mean
cybernetic, yes.
And I don't mean in that high sci-fi.
Right.
I've got half my face replaced with metal. I mean the original definition of a cyborg.
Okay, define that for me, just so I know I'm not screwed up.
An astronaut in a spacesuit is a cybernetic organism. They're not bonded together, but they both work. Man and technology to move around in space and continue being a system.
Okay.
You wearing your glasses to get around, it's technically cybernetic.
I mean, I can see where you're going with this. I think you're going to get into the woods, and it's going to get needlessly muddy. Somebody with glasses can create art.
Yes.
Somebody plugging words into... It's not the same as somebody plugging words into an algorithm.
It's a separate being that can survive on its own, utilizing technology.
I'm sorry, what?
They're utilizing it's just a more active tool.
That's not a small point to make. It's not just a more active tool. It's a much more active tool. It's doing pretty much all the work for you.
So's a cordless drill.
Okay.
Someone who uses a cordless drill is part of building a house. Do we say they didn't build the house?
The cordless drill didn't build the house.
No, I'm not saying that the cordless drill built the house.
Yeah, well, the AI art generator is creating the art. Wholesale. The only thing it's not doing is feeding itself the words. You can't just plug in... You can't have somebody plug in a power drill or
and I'm
an impact
thankful
drill.
that AI is not plugging in the words. All right.
But you can't have no construction worker is going to be able to. One construction worker isn't going to walk up to a pile of wood with an impact drill and build a house. There's a lot of other stuff you need, and they're probably going to need.
I didn't say impact. I said cordless.
Yeah, that's not a subtle distinction. That's a big distinction.
Fair enough. So at what point does this tool cease to be a tool?
Cease to be a tool? Okay, I don't
understand. At what point how much does a tool have to do to where it takes over, like, I've seen you use your Photoshop.
Yeah.
You've got a slider and it does things on the screen.
Right.
It's doing a lot to the image.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
So how much of that work does that tool have to do before it takes away all the craft?
Paint the image for me.
That's how far it has to go.
In order to be able to use that tool, I still have to understand color. I have to be able to physically, critically evaluate what I'm looking at and determine whether or not it's working to a pretty precise degree. I mean, I can't just randomly slide that thing around and
you could
go with it. I mean, I could, but that would be the equivalent of being unconscious.
It wouldn't fit with your intent.
No. And if I did that with every step along the way, it would be the equivalent of unconsciously creating, or not even creating, I don't know, manifesting an image.
What if the tool gives you a scaffold?
What do you mean?
Can you make art out of can you create art from a coloring book?
Yeah. You could. You have to do a lot to it. There has to be see, this is where we're getting in the woods, because there has to be generally a noticeable amount of intent beyond what was there before you got there. A noticeable amount of meaning imbued into that.
So just putting a mustache on it doesn't count?
Nah, I mean, yeah, technically, but no.
So you can't just box the Canadian money?
No. No.
That doesn't count as art?
Well, you know what? It could. It could. It could.
If you make an AI that just Spock's Canadian money, is the AI now the artist?
No, because it doesn't have any creative intent.
All right. The person who made the AI is the artist.
If they built that tool specifically to do that, that one very specific piece of art, you might have an argument. Maybe. Maybe.
Why wouldn't I have an argument there?
I don't know. I haven't thought that deeply about it. That's why I said maybe.
Well, give it a think. Because this comes down... The reason I'm asking this stuff is... it has to do with how much of the work the tool can do. Before the only thing that is being provided is intent. I mean...
Well, that's a definite... I think that's a good, sure line.
If all you're putting in is the intent.
Yeah. If all you're putting in is the intent, you're not an artist, really. Not really. Unless, I mean, you could do something like that. See, you can't even say it's with a director, because that's not a good analog. Because a director has an understanding of a type of artwork. A director understands composition and things like that.
If they're good.
Well, yeah.
Can you be a bad artist?
Yeah. Absolutely. What are you doing to our producer?
Squeezing.
I mean, that's another question we could pose. I mean, maybe we do call AI art. Is it good art? Is it worthy art? I don't think it's genuine art. I could certainly say that. Could it have value?
I would say it's not traditional art.
Well, I mean, that's too easy.
Yeah, I'm not saying it wasn't.
But...
Okay, did he poop in my hand this time? No.
I mean, yeah, I guess we're trying to figure out where you draw the line.
So genuine art is when the artist where every, because I can't say there's such things collaborative art,
mm-hmm.
where all acting parties in the creation of the art are sentient.
Have willfully creative involvement.
Right. Sentience.
That seems to be, that not sentience alone, but because yes,
remember we had sentience and sapience.
Yeah.
Something can think without being sentient.
Well, I'm saying, but I'm also saying, well, maybe that's not true. Okay, yeah, we'll go with that.
Because we can't throw the sapience on there.
Right, right.
Because that AI, that algorithm, it's doing thinking.
Yeah.
Where all aspects of the art are generated with sentience.
I think maybe what we can try to boil this down to, because we're running out of time. We're here a week later, but this is still already part 3.
Mm-hmm.
And we're probably damn near an hour into it. But
judging by this fucking popcorn bowl.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. I think maybe we'll make the distinction that AI art is art. Because at least in one regard or one respect, it can be considered art because it can have artistic worth. Technically, because somebody might be willing to trade or pay for it.
There's no technically about it.
Somebody could be willing to pay or trade for it. So there's that. But does it have the same value as genuinely developed art? No. No, because the what would you call it? Party, I guess. I can't even really call it that. I'm referring to the AI art generator itself. It doesn't have, and it's doing the bulk of the work by far. It doesn't have any creative intent. It doesn't make anything meaningful by its own will. Whatever meaning is derived from it is haphazardly put in by the person, by the word puncher.
Maybe that's alone, I set my mind in motion.
What?
Keep
by
going.
word alone, I set my mind in motion.
That's not what I said.
Okay. Well, you derailed me.
I was making a Dune reference.
Oh, okay. But it's doing the bulk of the work, and it doesn't have any creative intent. It cannot, on its own, willfully imbue meaning into what it's creating. Nor can it ascribe meaning to what it's referencing. So, the entity, or whatever you want to call it, maybe that's not even a good word to describe it. The AI art generator which is doing the bulk of the work, isn't doing the part of the work that matters in order to be considered genuine art. Which is that something, the process of AI art is too dispersed in order for you to be able to give proper credit to an artist as the artist. That's what I'm getting at. There's too many different people and too many different. It's so hard to. What the hell would you call a machine, like an AI art bot? It's not an entity. It's not a person. It's not a party. Whatever it is.
It's a tool. I've been saying that for a while.
But I'm trying to lump it in with the other elements of this, and I can't really do it. But anyway, the thing that's doing the bulk of the work doesn't have any willful intent. It can't do that. And that's a significant thing when you're trying to call art genuine or authentic. Or maybe, for many people, probably even valuable. The idea that someone or a collection of people are actively trying to communicate some kind of meaning in the work that they do, and that they are physically doing the work, is significant to the ability to ascribe value to something. Not worth. We've already established that, but value. If an AI bot creates a poem, this is an even easier way to look at this. If it creates a poem, does it mean anything? Because it didn't have experience. It didn't have the experience to legitimize whatever it's putting out into the world. When you read that poem and you know it came from something that didn't experience any of that, how do you value that?
I mean, isn't there a literary analysis tool referred to as Death of the Author where you completely remove anything but the work itself?
You can never completely remove everything.
I mean, you're just judging the work on its own merits, right? That's what Death of the Author is, yes?
Yes, but you can assume, even in that situation, that the author may have died, but that they experienced this, or had an experience that inspired it. You can never completely get rid of the author unless there was no author to begin with.
So,
well, let's say this.
Can you read a simulacra?
Yeah.
Well, it's a copy without an original. Therefore, there is no author.
Yeah. You can read a poem written by an AI bot.
All right. You can read the poem. Is it a poem?
Yeah. Technically.
Sorry, tater tot.
No, I understand. Yeah, it's a poem. It's still a poem. Looks like a poem. It's structured like a poem. Yeah.
But it can't have meaning.
The only meaning it could have would be whatever the reader brings to that. But that's a one-way street. The AI art isn't actually communicating anything. Not really. It doesn't have the intent to communicate anything. Whatever amount of meaning that it's communicating is incidental.
And now we're back to the very first section of this.
What's the issue you're taking with it?
Well, an AI did not come into existence on its own.
I thought we were talking about true AI here.
No, I was going with. I mean, even then, a true AI doesn't come into its own.
No.
I mean, outside of a Boltzmann brain.
I'm sorry, I said that wrong. If we were talking about true AI, then they could create meaning. They could, because then you've created a person.
Well, I should hope you would consider them a person.
Yeah. When we talk about true AI, it's like, yeah.
Well, we can look at the breadth of human history, and there are humans that haven't been considered persons.
Well, yeah. But they are able to process and critically, like, they can have experiences. But an AI art bot, as we're talking about now, it doesn't have experience. It can't process experience. It doesn't do that. I am Bender, insert girder. That is what it does. It has a function, but
all right.
In the philosophical sense, it doesn't have a form, really.
Okay, hold on, because we're about to open up a whole other can of worms real quick.
Okay.
What do you do? What? And oh God, we're.
This is going to be a two-parter, I feel.
Oh God, I hope not.
I can easily make that work without us having to do anything crazy to it.
All right. What makes an experience? Yeah, what is an experience? In regards to this conversation, what is an experience? Because it could be very important.
I would say an experience, in order to be an experience, at least the way that I'm referring to it, there has to be some conscious thing that can will and that can have an understanding of what it's experienced. And that doesn't have to be complex either. I mean, a rabbit capable of evaluating its experiences. I mean, it's rudimentary. I mean,
Well, how do
it's
you know
basic.
something has an experience?
It responds to it.
There's a change,
It-
maybe?
Yeah, there's a change in its behavior. It can be. Let's see. It can learn. That's part of it. It can. Let's see. It can reason to at least a rudimentary degree.
So a neural network that made art would be considered genuine art.
When you say neural
Because
network,
it
what
does
do you mean?
everything that you're talking about as far as experiences.
When you say a neural network, what do you mean? What are you referring to?
A self-improving system. Things happen to it. It changes. It has a very rudimentary understanding of things that it does and things that are done to it.
Mm.
But it gets more efficient in whatever parameters, and sometimes you end up with really crazy things that come out of neural networks. It's almost the textbook emergence definition of an emergent system.
Mm.
It has, by your definition, experiences.
I mean, maybe. Maybe.
There's a change in its behavior that that comes from things that happen to it.
Yeah, I mean, as long as its changes don't have to be programmed into it.
No, they're not.
Okay.
They're spontaneous.
And then I mean, that qualifies as learning to me.
So if you had a neural network that made art, it would be genuine. And that would still be a non-sentient AI making the art.
I don't know.
I doubt any of the algorithms that are out there are neural networks, but I also wouldn't be surprised if some of them are. Just as an experiment.
I don't know. I don't know enough about that to really be able to claim one way or the other. I mean, there are some things that we set out to answer that we already have. I think from the very beginning of this, the first question we really had is AI art art? It's like, okay, yeah, we'll concede on that. It is art. Because, I mean, what else is it?
Yeah, but if the AI generator has experiences and grows in its behavior and what it generates changes, it might not be the human equivalent or the human definition of critical evaluation, but it is evaluating what it's done and improving on it.
Is that inspiration?
So now you're throwing in it has to have inspiration.
No, I asked a
keep changing
question.
the goalposts.
I asked a question.
Well, we didn't.
That was a question.
We didn't even bring up inspiration prior.
Okay, but I asked a question. Does that qualify as inspiration? I didn't go off on a tangent about how it doesn't have inspiration. Don't put that voodoo on me, Ricky Bobby.
The other reference to inspiration that we had in the episode was an AI referencing other art. Is that the same as inspiration to a human artist?
Yeah.
To which it essentially does the same thing. And if you're talking about a neural network that can evaluate and change its behavior spontaneously, I don't want to say of its own will, because I'm not sure if it has will.
I think maybe what we're actually discovering here is that there are a number of requirements to get to a point where there could be an average of people who would consider AI capable of creating genuine art. That seems to be the case. But the problem we're running into is that you have to have a definition of art, and then you have to have a definition of artist in order to be able to do that.
It seems there is at least one neural network art generator.
Okay.
And I honestly believe that a neural network does change the game of this entirely. Because it's not just an algorithm, it's a self-improving algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
Not.
How does it gauge its improvement when it's creating art?
I'm not exactly sure. See, the funny thing about neural networks is we can build them, but once they start running for a little while, we have no idea how they work. They just do.
Yeah, see, that would be my question: is how does it improve? How does it evaluate its improvement? Now,
How does a human?
I would say in a situation like that, if we're going to say that it improves, then we have a gauge for what improvement is, and we're saying that that's what it's doing.
Yeah, I guess we're making the
But
same.
does it know that?
Does it need to?
I think if it doesn't know that, it's dangerous.
It's as dangerous as any AI on the planet is.
Well, I mean, it depends on what the AI is capable of doing, what it has access to, I guess.
Here, pretty picture. Give launch codes.
I was talking to, I think, Tyler the other day or something, and I was like, I feel like in the very near future, War Games is suddenly going to become a very relevant film.
It was relevant at the time.
Well,
So, yeah. A neural network is probably, referenced arts is probably inspiration. I'm not trying to sound like neural networks are magic, but they are
all right.
very complex.
Let's try to break this down right now. Let's try and see if we can end it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Because Daddy needs a cigarette.
yeah, I know. So have a seat and let's see if we can find a way to conclude.
Fuck you, I'm standing.
If we can conclude this. Okay, so AI art is art. We've established that. Let's try.
Yes.
Let's try and at least give answers where we know we've got answers.
All right.
AI art is art. The artist in the situation of creating AI art seems to be that it would have to be the
word puncher.
The word puncher. But the word puncher is only doing so much work, and it's not much compared to what the AI art generator is doing.
Is it the most important work?
We're not going to be able to answer that question. It's hard to say. I mean, it's the one feeding in it's the one that has the specific intent, but the art generator is the one that's doing all the work, really.
It's doing the craft.
It's doing the craft, but it's not consciously doing the craft. It doesn't have the experience. It doesn't have the will, the willful intent to create a piece of artwork. So that's the issue that we're running into as far as being able to call anyone really an artist in this.
Does a commissioned
equation.
artist have that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they have an understanding of the craft and they have an understanding of and a communication with the person that's commissioned them, and they keep going back and forth communicating to try and get it the way that person wants it. But they're not just like that person is technically like the person who's commissioning them might technically be feeding words to them technically because that's how they're communicating.
Maybe keywords.
But the artist, who in that analogy would be the AI art generator, isn't AI. It's just I. They know they have a conscious understanding of what they're doing.
No, it's still AI.
How they're doing it. How is
Anthropomorphic intelligence.
We're trying to finish this. Don't complicate things. Yeah, so we can make that distinction. I think maybe one of the most significant distinctions we made is, well, any other art compared to genuine or authentic art. People are still going to be willing to pay for AI art. We've already seen that.
Mm-hmm.
They're willing to use it. It has practical value. Or practical worth. It has practical worth.
No, if it's there's still a value there. Worth is monetary exchange or exchange of goods and services.
It's a type of value, that's true.
And you're not, it is a type of value. You're not going to give up things that are valuable to gain something that isn't.
Right. So, certain things qualify. They qualify it as art. Mm-hmm. And they're not insignificant things, because whether or not somebody's willing to pay for something is a pretty significant thing.
I'm willing to kill for it.
But here, yeah. Here's the other distinction that I wanted to make here. And maybe when we're talking about AI art,
I will die for Deep Dream Generator.
One of the things I brought up at one point was AI art pulling from other AI art. And the reason I brought that up is because I said at a certain point that AI art can't create art on its own. It has to draw from actual living conscious artists. But then I thought, well, does it? Not technically. If you had AI art and the programmer said, you know what, program, you're only going to pull from other AI art. How quickly, because these things don't have human experiences, how quickly is that going to degenerate into... I mean, it'll start what could be considered reasonable and uncanny valley. On this scale, uncanny valley is reasonable. Because at least it looks like something we're kind of familiar with. But I'm pretty sure very, very quickly you're going to run into clone of a clone of a clone, derpy artception. Like, it's just going to get worse and worse until it is completely unrecognizable and you can't really pull any meaning out of it.
It depends. Because that algorithm is going to give baselines that it has to at least pass. It can only get so bad.
I don't know, man.
If the person who programmed the thing has... It can only get as bad as the
keywords...
As the original programmer's worst idea of what art can be.
No, that's not true at all. Because it's pulling from other AI art across the internet.
Yeah, well,
at that point, it's out of the programmer's hands.
The thing isn't just blending images.
That's pretty much what it's doing.
There's still more to it. There's a difference between pretty much and that's what it's doing.
Okay, what else is it doing?
I don't know exactly, but there's more to it. I've never built an AI bot.
Its purpose... Sorry if I spit on you. Its purpose is to take images from across the internet and blend them together to create something new, and it's taking those images based on keywords that are fed to it.
All right, we've gone through we went over this stuff in section 1 of the episode, and I don't want to hash over this again. I don't accept what you're saying, but we need to move on.
I'm just telling you what this thing does. That is how it's built. That is how the programmer programs it.
No.
That is why these other artists have complaints about it, because it's using their art that they have posted online, and it's doing that without their consent.
And going back to the ship example, if you just blended a bunch of images that had the keyword ship in it, you'd end up with something that doesn't even remotely resemble a ship. You'd end up with something that looks like a blending of a bunch of different ships. Because you'd have, one image of a ship, it's sailing in this direction. Another image of a ship, it's sailing in another. You blend that together, and you're going to end up with this blur. It's not going to look like a ship. There has to be something in the algorithm that gives the image consistency.
Yeah.
That's beyond just blending it.
Right.
So that's what that something is, that other thing is. It might primarily blend those images, but there is something else there that gives the image consistency.
Okay, at that point then, if it's only drawing from other AI art, as our little thought experiment here,
you're going to end up with just what gives them all consistency. That's what it's going to distill down to.
Are you? Because if it's only pulling from other AI art, at what point do those blended images of ship that looks like ship that looks like ship, at what point are those going to start to break down? And a ship starts to look a little bit like something else because of how many images it's sort of been blended with. An image of a ship that has a ship, but also some other type of boat. I don't know. Or maybe there are these things that can happen to these images. I mean, the entropy of this is gonna take place at some point.
It's only going to get as worse as the baseline of the algorithm will let it make it. You're going to end up with the distillation of that one AI's algorithm.
I don't believe that's true.
Neither of us, frankly, have the expertise to say one way or the other way. This is my opinion. That's your opinion, and that's as far as we can go on that. Because neither of us have built one of these things. Neither of us have the capability to build one of these things.
Not to build one, no. But what it's doing, I do know that. What it's doing is it's drawing from art, an AI art generator. It's drawing from art that has been posted by actual artists. Now, at this point, it's probably sometimes drawing from other AI art pieces that have been reposted with the same types of keywords. But at some point, it's going to be drawing from regular artists, and it's going to be drawing from AI art that's been posted, and that AI art might have keywords that are something like boat, but it may not actually look that much like a boat because the image ended up being relatively abstract. And that's what the person who fed the keywords into it wanted it to look like. Like a boat, but more abstract. It's like abstract art. You post something abstract, you post a piece of abstract art, doesn't really look like a boat, but it, unless a person is looking at it, and then they can use the shapes and really put that complex twist on it when they're drawing that image out. You know what I mean? When you're looking at abstract art, a lot of times it's representative of something that isn't clear just by looking at it, or isn't clear by the shapes. It's not explicit. The shapes, the colors, things like that. It's implicitly giving you the thing that it's titled after. So how do you handle that? How does an AI art generator handle abstract art? Because right then and there, you're going to start having problems. If somebody types in something that they want to look like a boat, and many pieces of abstract art are given partially the keyword boat, because the meaning that was intended by that piece of abstract art had something to do with a boat.
I don't know.
The AI art generator,
the exact shit that goes into one of these algorithms, man.
The generator doesn't have any. It can't critically evaluate that and say, well, that's a boat or that's not a boat. It can't do what a human can do. It's not complex enough to do that. So
that you're aware of. I mean, you could conceivably set up a baseline boat, and then a line boat. As it's looking through the image and just comparing outlines of various things, you could set that as a baseline parameter.
Outlines aren't the only thing that makes a boat. You have the concept of boat.
Well, it's the thing. It is the thing that gives the image consistency. That's what you're looking for when you're looking for a boat.
Here's a piece of abstract art for you. It's a painting of the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all. And it's titled Boat. Because the camera is the boat. You're laying in a boat and you're looking at the sky. I'm not saying it's good art, but somebody could easily tag that as boat.
This is an actual work.
Not that I've seen, but I'm sure it could very easily be a piece of abstract work.
We're throwing abstract after abstract after abstract.
No.
The AI...
There is more to art than just it looking like the thing that it's tagged as. There's a lot more to art than that.
Yeah, and you might have the algorithm put in is, do you see a boat in there? I mean, you've seen those are you a human tests?
No.
You know what those are for, right?
Yeah, a person can identify something that a bot can't.
Right, but
visually.
Yeah, but what are they using that information for?
Presumably to... Oh, what are they using the information for?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm assuming you're going to try to make the point that they use it to feed AI art, or AI generators, or whatever you want to call it.
Not
knowledge.
AI art generators or anything like that. It's teaching robots to pick up abstracts and identify things.
Not abstracts. Not abstracts. When you look at those, a boat is a boat.
Okay,
they're not throwing some piece of abstract art at you and asking how many boats you see.
Is stop an abstract or concrete thing?
The word stop, the concept stop, is abstract. Although a stop sign is concrete.
That has...
The word stop is abstract.
All right, so what matters when it comes to stopping?
How's it contextualized?
The action or the sign?
When you're trying to identify it in a picture and it's asking you identify all the pictures that have a stop sign, the sign is important.
Yeah, so you can do the thing where you're supposed to, right? Because if you don't, you hit people.
Okay. Yeah.
Notice that as you've been doing, we've been interneting for years. The "Are you a human?" questions have been getting more and more difficult.
I haven't really noticed that. I haven't noticed anything more difficult than click on the images that have a stoplight in them.
It might have a stoplight. It might be a stop sign. But now it's starting to get to click on the image that has a squirrel in it.
Yeah.
Click on the image that has a biker in it.
Okay.
A biker is still harder to see than a stop sign. It's kind of the point of the stop sign, right?
I mean, I guess, sure.
It's been getting more and more varied. A lot of these things are being used to program like self-driving cars.
Okay.
Or autos, as some people refer to them as.
Okay.
And fuck, I was on a point and I forgot it. Just move on.
Well, the point that I was making is that abstract art can have the key, if you're posting it somewhere, it can have the keywords of something, but it doesn't look really anything like that. There are complex ideas that are being communicated from the artist to the person viewing that piece of art. There's a reason that a lot of people complain about abstract art. They don't know what the fuck they're looking at, right? I mean, that's the problem. But other artists, and I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt here, can look at that and understand why they called it what they called it. Just because they have an understanding of, okay, you're using color and you're using composition and you're using shape, you're using all these elements of design to get across the idea of the keywords that you would use to tag that, or the title that you gave that piece.
Mm-hmm.
It's a problem that people run into with poetry too. They'll read a poem that isn't something like Robert Frost and something more abstract and complicated than that, and they won't know what the fuck it means. But some people who aren't poets will get it, and other poets will generally have some idea of what they were doing because they have an idea of how those concepts interact with each other. But an AI art generator can't do that. It's not complex enough. Because you need a complex diversity of experience in order to be able to critically evaluate something like that. Generally speaking, in many cases, you actually have to have some kind of emotion. Now, to be fair, you could program an AI art generator to recognize red as anger. That's pretty simple.
Okay. So I just put in, I'm using the Night Cafe image generator. And I typed in 2 words while Dave was talking. I was listening to you. Kinda. Sorta. Maybe.
Okay.
The first one was ship. Figuring it'd give me an image of a ship.
Okay. Did it?
No. It did not give me an image of a ship. It gave me a very pretty landscape of Quasi-Mordor.
And that's about as simple as it gets, right? You only typed in 1 word.
Right. But I'm also only using one AI generator, and it's a free one.
Yeah.
I typed in love next. And I got
frozen wasteland
it's
of
not
spires.
Frozen.
Okay. It's blue and gray.
Lots
of blue and
that's
gray.
mist.
Okay.
So it's green and I think that's like a double eagle dragon thing.
It looks like a weird fantasy.
That might be
novel.
love.
I mean, maybe.
I can't really say what love is.
Okay, so you very simply, you just typed in the word ship. You didn't even make it complicated.
Mm-hmm.
You typed in the word ship into an AI art generator, and what it fed back to you was nothing that looked anything like a ship.
Right.
So what was your intent? What was your purpose for that exercise?
Let's see if it would give me a ship.
Okay. What does that mean for your argument?
Means that at least this AI bot doesn't give me an image of a ship. That is the hardest I can go on that one.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Could we say that it doesn't really know what you mean when you say ship?
Probably.
Okay. Because that's been my argument. I honestly would have thought you would have gotten a picture of a ship if all you typed in was the word ship.
I put in more descriptors.
Yeah.
Epic battleship space.
Mm-hmm. And you got a battleship.
Of epic scale.
Of epic scale and color. And there's a bit of a cosmic...
Kind of in space.
Yeah, there's a cosmic sort of thing to it.
So, I think the more keywords you throw on there, the more accurate it gets.
In theory, yeah.
Just because it has more shit to reference.
Yep. Yep.
So I think the key in these things is not trying to be basic. They get better and better the more you put in to them.
Yeah, because like you said, it's referencing more images.
Probably. That's what I'm guessing. I can't see the inside of the algorithm. I don't know exactly what's going on.
Fair enough, but it's a pretty safe bet because I cannot imagine any other way that it would be doing that. Based on that alone, the more keywords you use, the better, the more accurate the art gets.
That I'm not going to definitively say that's exactly what's happening.
No, you couldn't.
Right. That is...
I was just looking at your face and it was like, is he insulting me? Is he being sarcastic?
He sounded pretty sarcastic.
Grokking.
Yeah, it's a safe bet, but I'm not going to put my foot down and say that's exactly how it does it.
Okay. So, about a half hour ago, we said we were going to try to conclude this by coming up with some answers that we know. We said that AI art is art.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. I didn't even think that would be much of an argument when we started this thing. But, so there's one last thing we got to deal with here. And it's the primary concern. It's the reason why this is a problem for a lot of people anyway.
The black hole that's hurtling toward us?
Some might equate it to that. I wouldn't. I'm not that stupid. Even as an artist. Okay. Should there be restrictions on AI art? When I say that, should it only draw from artists who give their consent for their art to be used?
No.
Why?
Unless they start putting restrictions on those visual design artists, then no.
Okay.
You know, the people who just...
Yeah, visual development artists.
Visual development artists. Unless they start putting restrictions on those people, then no.
Okay. Now, some sites already do this. DeviantArt's an example of that. In order for you, whenever you post something on DeviantArt, in order for it to be used, theoretically, we'll say, at least on the surface, there's a little checkbox. And you have to opt in to your art being used in AI art generation.
Okay.
On the flip side, not too long ago, it was discovered that Adobe automatically allowed it. And you have to opt out of it in order for your art to not be used that way. Now, that's interesting because the only connection I'm aware that Adobe has with your art being used that way is the Creative Cloud. So, is it keeping your pieces of artwork without your knowledge? I mean, that's a whole nother question, but I do wonder that.
There's an easy answer to this. Well, excuse me. There's a simple answer to this.
Okay.
And it lies in the user license agreement.
Oh, dear God. Nobody fucking reads that thing. It's 1 million pages long.
Yeah, that's why I changed to simple, not easy. That's where the answer lies. All right?
So, all right, fair enough.
If you've already agreed to it in the user license agreement, I mean, there might be a section of that says, we now own your soul, and no one reads it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be Apple. They can't all be Apple, you know.
It's apples all the way down. Turtle differently.
Turtle infinitely.
Damn infinite turtle. You flying on space with them elephants, boy?
Okay, so basically, an artist's art could be used for AI art generation, and we shouldn't really do anything about that unless it's a company that decides, like DeviantArt, that they don't want to allow that. They can choose to do that.
And since most DeviantArt goes up on DeviantArt, having gone through Photoshop, which Adobe already, unless they already opted out of, it's probably already being used.
Yeah.
It just can't be sourced from DeviantArt.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah. So there's that.
I don't mean to burst your bubble on that one, but...
No, I mean, it didn't really burst my bubble.
I didn't mean to burst their bubbles on that. Okay, I didn't mean to slap DeviantArt with my wang.
That's a dangerous thing to do. You don't know what it's going to hit. But I do.
I've seen some of the stuff on DeviantArt.
But I do.
There's someone who's already drawing art of it.
Yeah. I think what it really boils down to is that these artists, this is an even better question. These artists are afraid that AI art is somehow going to replace what we've up to this point dubbed genuine art.
Mm-hmm.
Their actual meaningful, intentful artwork. It's going to replace it because what they're really worried about is commercial art. Is it going to get to a point where people who want to pay for art don't have to pay for it? And then what the hell does the artist do? Can't be an artist by trade anymore.
Provide a service that an AI can't.
What is a service that an AI can't provide?
Well, as we just seen, draw me a ship.
So art. Genuine art. Until an AI gets to the point where it's true AI, it can't do that.
I'm not going to get into the shifting goalposts of true AI, because if you'd have showed people the algorithms that we got going on today to people in the 1950s, they'd think we already solved the question.
Oh.
We've got AI chatbots that can pass the Turing test with flying colors.
But they're so bad.
Now, does that mean the bot is bad or the people are stupid? And if the bot's smarter than the person...
I have talked to chatbots that are smarter than some people I've met.
We might already have AI. We just don't recognize it. But, we shift the goalpost.
All right. So, I think what we've basically come to at this point is that AI art is art unless you use the Oxford definition, and then there's a lot of points in the Oxford definition where you can disqualify AI art as art.
Yeah. So when it comes to commercial art, yeah, it's going to threaten some people. But it's going to be people who really aren't really looking for anything in particular. They're just something that looks pretty, that has basic things to it.
The specificity of the art is what a genuine artist can offer that an AI art cannot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When it comes to art for its own sake or just enjoyment of it, no, they're not really threatening. They're not really being threatened.
Yeah, well, and I think the fear, and this is a legitimate one, is that most people who would pay for art aren't looking for the depth of meaning in the art. They're looking for the practical purpose.
And most of the people that I know that are paying for art, they're looking for a very specific purpose for the art. I know one person who's paid for art, and he spent thousands on furry porn.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
Can an AI generate furry porn? Let's find out.
We'll find out today.
Make that the thumbnail for the episode. Oh, God. That's a good way to get kicked off YouTube.
The AI fap trap.
I think people, the furry commissioners, they will continue to send their money to someone who actually does genuine art.
Well, yeah, because generally speaking, they want something more specific than an AI art bot can.
Show
Generate.
wolf fuck.
I can only hear that phrase in my head in Carl's voice.
From Aqua Teen?
Yes. Yeah.
Show wolf fuck.
Those better not be two wolves fucking on top of my house.
So, when it comes to AI art, what really kind of gets my jimmies are people who are angry at people for using AI art programs or insulting them.
I'm not angry with them. Okay, to be fair, it depends. It depends on what the intent is. If you're getting on AI art the way that Greg does, and you're using it to generate some I don't know, environment art or whatever for your D&D campaign, I don't care. Because before AI art bots did that, it was not like those people were going out and paying money for that kind of stuff. At least not to the extent that you know.
There were some who were, but
Some
they were
who
like
were.
professional DMs.
Yeah. But, so yeah, no, I don't give a shit about that. Or if you're trying to get an avatar or whatever, who gives a shit? But if you're doing it, and you're taking that art and you're maybe trying to sell it, or even calling yourself an artist, I do take umbrage with that. Because you're not an artist. You don't know what you're doing. You're plugging keywords into a bot. You can get practical use out of that, but you're not an artist.
Yeah, but just because someone's like, yeah, this is what I like to do. Hey, can someone send me some more reference photos so I can try and get more of this style? It's like, just learn to draw. Just, come on. It's not like he's selling it. It's not like he's saying he's an artist.
Well, he said he was trying to... Well, okay, to be fair, we don't know his specific intent for that art. The people who are listening don't know this.
He wanted more images of this style.
He wanted more images of the style of a particular illustrator, and he didn't know... We don't know what he was going to do with that artwork. We don't, to be fair. But, now, and to your credit, he was jovial, maybe jovial, I don't know what the right word is, but he seemed happy about what he was doing, and he didn't seem to have any ill will to him at all. He was excited. He really legitimately enjoyed this particular artist's work, and was trying to get an AI art generator to generate it. But I can see why the artist had a concern with that, because that's a direct example of what artists are afraid of to an extent. It's, okay, you're trying to get an AI art bot to do what I ask people to pay me to do.
Was it the artist that he was looking for that was...
He was the one that responded, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, that was a big part of that post. The artist that he was saying he wanted the AI art generator to synthesize, yeah, that was the artist that responded.
Oh.
That said, or you could learn to draw. He's not wrong. If you want this type of art, learn how to create it. Don't take the shortcut. Now, it depends on what that person's intent was with the actual art. It's like, okay, if you're just using it for an avatar or whatever, I wouldn't try to have it mimic identically another artist's work. I think that's unethical. I do.
If you're just making it because you like looking at that style...
Now, to be fair, I can't really say that because I draw people as Simpsons characters relatively often. So there's that. Maybe that's not entirely fair judgment to make. But at minimum, for me anyway, I don't think it's right to call yourself an artist if you are obtaining the art through an AI art generator. I don't think that's right, because you're not doing the work.
You're not achieving the art.
You are not achieving the art.
You are simply obtaining it.
Yeah. You've commissioned it from an algorithm. You're just paying it in words.
And if you just like looking at it, that's...
I don't care about that.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that doesn't bother me at all.
I didn't like the... the pithy response on that one.
I can understand that.
And then the dog pile of other people.
Yeah.
It was those people that I was specifically addressing.
Well, like I said, I understand why he was upset in that particular instance, because that person was trying to have an AI art generator mimic his art. It would be like going to a forger, so you don't have to pay as much. Or anything, in this case.
Well, we don't know what art... Because there are quite a few AI art generators that you do have to pay for.
Yeah. But you're not paying the artist.
Yeah, but we also don't know which one he's using. He might be paying something.
But it's not going to the person whose art he's trying to mimic.
We also don't know if that guy has been buying that guy's art.
We don't know that, but I would wager if he was willing to buy the guy's art, the only other reason he would be going to an AI
Maybe
art
he's
generator...
already dropped $10K.
And he doesn't want to pay anymore.
And he doesn't want to pay anymore.
Still a problem. Because I didn't think about that until just then, but that is exactly like going to someone who forges an artist's work and paying less for it. Or nothing in this case.
He wants a specific pocket pussy.
Anyway, can we conclude this episode, do
yes.
you think? I was going to say, I think we've gotten to a point where we've very painstakingly divided up the things that we're concerned about.
My butthole hurts. We need to leave.
There's only one other situation I could think of where that phrase could be uttered, and I'm glad we're not in that one. So, AI art is art. We can say reasonably that it's not genuine art. It's only a threat to actual artists in some regards, but not in other regards. So it's a complicated gray area, but you can divide it up. It can be reasoned through.
When the AI starts charging.
If you want an AI art bot to replicate a very specific artist's work, you should be going to that artist for their work. Because otherwise, like I said, you could just go to a forger and pay less. And that's illegal for good reasons.
Aren't a lot of forgers, like, legitimately good artists?
Yeah, you have to be.
Right, so if they make work in as close of a style... You know what? We're just going to call this here. I don't want to go down another half-hour long rabbit hole.
Well, we've been at this for a while. It's already 11 o'clock.
This is the longest...
We didn't even take a break, yeah. We're almost 2 hours on this section.
This is the longest segment in Arbitrarium history.
Yeah.
This one segment is longer than half our catalog.
Yeah, an hour and 45 minutes.
Bye.